Beep up. Oh, we're live right now, right?
Yeah, we should check the channel too.
Oh, I guess I could do that. Got my
Check
phone.
the channel, guys. Yeah, go to YouTube and put it on. It takes a minute or two.
You're a
I'll
minute
think about it.
or two.
Oh, looks like we're live. Twitch got me the notification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're live. Oh, cool. Perfect, guys. I would check the channel because of we're having with 3 Mile and mute it so that I don't have to fucking hear myself.
It looks like
Alpha
we're
Carter,
live.
can you
I
please
see.
can you please watch your tone? Okay. Thank you. No cursing. Thank you, please.
No cursing? What?
Yeah, no cursing, please.
Fuck you.
Wow, Chris. That was very aggressive. I'm very offended.
I tried.
By the way, if you guys see me dazing out, it's because the Yankees are on right now. I'm also going to be watching my team play, and by watching them,
Island, Google's right behind.
Well, that's not going to be very conducive to live chat if you're distracted by the pinstripes.
What'd you say?
Exactly.
He's fine.
I mean,
he's fine. Mike was a baseball player. That'd be like if if we invaded Iraq and you're like, hey man, I'm just trying to watch the invasion while I do the podcast, Chris.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different. I mean, that has like national ramifications and like the
Hey.
Red Sox. I mean, the Yankees. Sorry.
Are you talking about Boston again? Chris, I swear, I will find where you're.
I got you, man. Come on. That's the best thing about New Yorkers. It's super sensitive about Boston. It's like the best.
Somebody's watching this on X. I don't know who is, but whoever is, cool.
Yeah, well, I hope.
What's up, guys? What's up, X or Twitter? Hopefully it's Elon. We love you, bro.
Yahoos.
Keep it up. Yahoos? All right. Let's see. We'll wait for some.
It's 7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock. You guys want to start? Let me.
4 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then here we go.
I'm a West Coaster by heart, but I live in the East Coast now.
I'm an East Coaster by heart.
We know,
New York,
like we know.
Not Boston. New York, not Boston. Get it right.
Listen to you for like 2 seconds. We can tell.
All right, guys. Welcome, everybody. It's 4 p.m. here in San Diego. What time is it in Indianapolis?
7
p.m. Indianapolis and 7 p.m. in New York City. Guys, welcome to the Almost Patriots podcast. Thanks for joining us, guys. How do I tell how many viewers? I wonder if I can tell. Can you guys see how many viewers?
Okay, continue.
No. I mean,
you're the MC. We're just here, for moral support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I like that. I'm gonna just jump on our channel, guys. If you're watching, just give us a second. We're just getting going. Thanks for tuning in. All right. Let's see what we got here. Can't see shit, can I? Can't see how many people.
Wow. I mean, I thought your glasses were pretty thick, but.
Nope, I can't see. I can't see a damn thing. All right, well, let's get the stream going. Like I said, thanks for joining us, guys. Almost Patriots podcast, episode 2. I'm your host, Rico, here in San Diego, California. As usual, the regular crew, my boy Elvis in Indianapolis, Indiana, and my boy Mike in New York City. What's up, guys?
Yeah.
What's up, man?
How's everybody? Good. Let us know if you're watching in the chat. Give us a shout out if you have any questions. How's everybody's week? Mike, how's your week, buddy?
Busy, not too bad. Staying busy like usual. Watching current events, watching sports. My Yankees are in the playoffs playing right now, so I have no complaints.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, we unfortunately we have the Padres out here in San Diego, and so I'm not sure if you watched any of that series, but apparently the Padres forgot that you have to hit the ball to win the game. I don't know.
Like
Maybe, could have been
2.5 games or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that typically you can't win a game without like hitting baseballs and like actually scoring runs. So it happens
but
though. The team though.
So it happens when the Dodgers pay for their bullpen. They've had like 25 pitchers in 24 innings or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
scoreless innings. Yep.
the Dodgers are like represented by like Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock.
Yeah, they got a
Pretty much.
ridiculous payroll, and they're represented by every I think country in the world with a player from each.
Jesus, good for them. I'm glad they're doing well, and I'm glad that they're winning ball games.
I mean, I'm really not. I mean, but
what
I
about
really
you?
don't have anything against the Dodgers, except for that I lived in San Diego for a long time, so I hate them by proxy.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean,
you're supposed to hate them, Ricardo.
I don't love them. I'm just trying to say, like, it's better that they're a California team, I guess. So I'm wearing blue today for Uruguay, not for the Dodgers. If you're
this
out
is
there,
the Little League World Series. All right, you don't root for the team that's they got the This is baseball. This is MLB. All right.
Absolutely. How about you, Chris? Anything new this week with you?
I got assigned like 3 projects for 3 different time out series today, so I just PowerPoint to death. That's what I did.
Oh, so, Jesus!
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's like a last minute. It's actually funny. So remember, we were talking about, and not to segue too far, but like the ban on Russian uranium is actually impacting that job because the part that we make, the part that the company makes uses Russian radioactive material, and so since there's a ban on this material from Russia, they can't make the part with this material anymore, and so now we have to figure out how to make it. It turns out that every aircraft we have, every engine we make has this part with this Russian radioactive material on it. So yeah.
Oh Jesus, man! I think the supply chains are going out the door on this, man.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, everything's been good out here. Weather's great here in San Diego. Lots going on around the horn, as we like to say. So we usually start off our program with a little chit chat, and then if we have any user emails or anything from our viewers, we like to hit those up, and some fun stuff. Just anything going on around the neighborhoods. So let's start it off, guys, with a nice light topic here. So I am out, being a multimedia guy. Like, what's the next level of media engagement? Like a lot of people think that it's going to be like the VR thing, like the meta, like metaverse or whatever. But I don't see a lot of it. But Japan has a different direction that they're going in. And I'd like to show you guys a video and let me know what you guys think about this type of multimedia experience. All right, guys.
This is a whole different type of interactive television, a tasty kind. A prototype of something called Taste the TV, or TTTV, is being tested in Japan.
TTTV 食べたいものは何ですか？甘いチョコレートが食べたいです。
After telling the device what you want to taste, it plays video of the food while it whips up a concoction of liquids to strike just the right flavor balance, and then sprays it on the screen to be licked off.
すごいちゃんとミルクチョコの味がして甘くて美味しいです。
TTTV is the brainchild of a college professor who said the COVID-19 pandemic is creating a demand for many experiences to be enjoyed at home, like trying new foods. I am thinking of making a platform where tastes from all over the world can be distributed as taste content. It's the same as watching a movie or listening to a song that you like. I hope people can in the...
Yeah, well, there you go, guys. What do you think about that?
So you get electrified and cancer at the same time.
Unbelievable.
No, but seriously, it doesn't even seem appealing to me.
It's not appealing to me, quite frankly. I feel like everybody is like, okay, stay home. We'll send this to you, or it's like everything nowadays just revolves around staying home. You can taste this, you can do this, you can have that. It's I don't know. I'll never get one of those. I can understand if there's a market for it, but for me, it's not something that I would even entertain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you guys.
I feel like that would be more like interesting if it was an interactive sort of like art piece that you go to visit. Like it was a thing that you go to see, and there was like an exhibit that had like a taste test sort of thing like that. That would be cool if it was like modern art. But like, I'm not gonna lick my TV at home. That's not happening. Like so.
Multiple times too.
Yeah, yeah. Or have
times.
multiple people lick the same TV. Yeah, that's just.
Okay, you definitely would do something like it. Ricardo, without a doubt, he would definitely do that, 100%. And the thing is, though, is it only foods? Can they make?
Yeah, well, yeah. You're gonna break the internet if you ask for I don't know, feet or something.
Yeah, like feet or something like that.
Can you get athlete's foot flavored TV screen?
Yeah.
That's I want to know what it's like to fall down in a Dodgers locker room. So can we make that what the floor tastes like? Dodgers locker room flavor? Is that a possibility?
I think it might be a possibility, or San Diego.
Or like
that's just cocaine and hooker sweat. I mean, that's not
the 1980s Mets. You mean? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
almighty.
Pretty much
Darryl
every
Strawberry
baseball team.
Yeah.
Darryl Strawberry, not the best one. I used to love him until I realized he was funding most of the cartels in South America with his daily habits and
Yeah, there was a documentary with him and several other players. It was good times.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of this stuff is stuff that is just more 15-minute city stuff. Like I'm not 100%. Like I love the whole like being creative and like trying to bring stuff to people, but like if we're really talking about what people are interested in, like I really feel like that based on the marketing data that we have, people are spending a lot more money on experiences. And so to me, the word experience doesn't mean in your house, and that could change. Yeah. But I really think that, people are actually trying to reconnect with the world instead of like trying to say, how can I make, lockdown life more appealing? Like, I don't think that there's a lot of people that want to go through lockdowns again. So, that might cause a rift. And so I think more people are trying to reconnect. So it's interesting to see this, the taste thing, because I don't really care, but like, how people are watching like food porn, like people just shoving food into their mouths. Like I never got into any of that stuff, man. That stuff is a little weird for me.
I would much rather see a drone deliver me like a sampler of a bunch of crap than the TV.
That's a good idea. That's a real if you were like,
to me, that'd be better.
Yeah, but the whole experience is going out to a restaurant, right? Get food, go try different combinations. There's a reason why there's so many different cultural restaurants trying different things. Like, do I need a machine? Yeah, but do I need a machine to lick chocolate? I could go to CVS and get 45 different types of chocolates out there, or it just I don't know. I don't see the advantage of having something like that.
I mean, it just to me, it's like the brick and mortar world is sort of kind of falling apart, I think.
I agree.
I agree. I mean, brick.
Unless you have a niche. You have a niche. You have some kind of niche, and then you're okay. But otherwise, if you're just generic in person, it's going to be hard.
I've been seeing a lot of Starbucks close down around here.
Well,
I don't know about you.
Their minimum wage is like $30 an hour or whatever it is, and they pay all these benefits. So like the cost ratio isn't going to work. So they're gonna essentially do what all these businesses do, and they look at the amount of work that one individual can do, and they maximize that. And if you don't want to do it, then they find somebody else. Because they're not.
But it's not just Starbucks though. Look at Rite Aid, 7-Elevens. Look at all the stores that are closing. Targets, and what's the other one that just announced that they're closing tons of stores? It's I think a geographical thing, but I think it's a geographical thing. But there's like you said, it's a cost benefit analysis on the capital, revenue, and what it costs, the expenses.
Yeah, we were talking about that with malls, right? Ricardo and I a little while ago, and like if you don't have some sort of free entertainment at your like, brick and mortar store, whatever it is, malls or, example, people are just not going to come. I mean, I think what, live music, DJing, some sort of concert, whatever that's going on while you shop is like the only way people are going to like stay. Otherwise they're just going to go on Amazon. Right.
I have a great story for you. I can't remember if it's a McDonald's or Wendy's in New York, but in Midtown, they had a DJ outside of the fast food restaurant playing music, trying to get people to come in. I was like, they're doing things to attract people to come in, which is good, but they're going to have to use that same logic if they're going to do with brick and mortars, getting people to come in the doors.
Yeah, but I heard too that like the McDonald's in Times Square, the people that work there make more money than like most other McDonald's because like it's just the foot traffic,
the traffic.
You can't expect a McDonald's that doesn't have like that kind of foot traffic to have the same kind of success and everything. And I mean, man, live music is. I mean, you got to bring people in. So, have you guys been to Bourbon Street in New Orleans?
Absolutely.
There's a Crystal's Burger on the way out to Canal. And like everybody goes there because you're drunk after a few hand grenades and in Bourbon Street, and then you end up walk back to Canal to get an Uber or whatever, and there's a Crystals right there. So like I don't even like Crystals, but I've eaten the Crystals every time I've gone to Bourbon Street.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, position. I mean, that's the big McDonald's big thing was the real estate. Have you guys seen the Founder movie? It's just like it's interesting how much how little faith they had in the brand, and like they're like, no, we just want the real estate. Like, so it's interesting. All those locations are in really good spots. Plus, I think people's behavioral patterns are changing as far as like what people are doing throughout the day. I think that's going to be an adjustment for a lot of retailers, even the ones that want to stay in bricks and mortars. Like I think you really need to do a behavioral analysis as to like where your customers are doing. Are they doing the same things every morning? Like a lot of people, from 20 years ago, 15 years ago are not doing the same things every day. And so maybe some of these retailers need to reposition themselves to kind of put themselves into the routine. McDonald's was just kind of like, hey man, we need to give you fast food fast, that tastes good, but now there's so much competition.
Yeah, but piggybacking off of that, companies are now starting to force people to get back into the office. So.
Absolutely.
That segues nicely into the topic, but.
Yeah, it does, guys. So that concludes our next section is the roundup, guys. And so the roundup, we're going to talk about our topics that we have here for the week. And the first one is going to be Amazon returning to 5-day work week. Chris, lead it off.
So it's funny because it kind of blows my mind about kind of the rigidity of a lot of thinking nowadays. When you make something so like hard lines, left and lateral limits in today's culture, it doesn't sit well with most people. And so this is kind of one of those examples. It's like, look, I totally understand that like you spend all this money on renting office space or whatever commercial real estate, and then you're not using it 5 days a week. Because people aren't, in the office 5 days a week, but like people don't want to work 5 days a week anymore. Like that's never going to happen. It's never going to go back to that way. And if you want, you can't just force that. You can't force everything back in the box, right? It's Pandora's box has been opened. We know that productivity goes through the roof when you have a hybrid work life. There's the only one caveat to working from home, like hybrid work. There's only one time that it's a problem, and that's if you don't already have an active social life.
I agree.
That is the only variable that makes hybrid working from home bad for the individual, is that individual does not already have an established social life. And there's a ton of studies that have verified that productivity is better, the work-life balance is better, everything's better. So to me, like this kind of goes back to what we talked about last week. Like, like you got to think about what's behind the scenes. And it sounds to me like what Ricardo said, like there's automation coming. We literally just saw the new, whatever it's called, that robot that
TTTV.
It's called a flesh flashlight, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Flesh
Oksana.
lick light.
For those of you who watch Blue Mountain State, that's Oksana. But no, what's the name of the robot that Elon just popped up with? But
that was the humanoid.
Omnius or Omnibus.
Automation is coming, and so to me, this is like what you talked about, right? You're forcing people to come back to work, and a bunch of people are going to complain, and they're going to resign, and when they resign, they don't get, whatever benefits that they would have normally get if they got fired, and so then Amazon makes money, and then they bring in automation to replace people, and they save millions of dollars. So
yeah. So I'm gonna go twofold into this. One, it could be designed to do that. Exactly, it could be a design factor. We want to get rid of employees, and now if you're not going to return to work or you're not going to return to the office 5 days a week, then we have the right to fire you for cause. So that's one element. That's an underlining factor that could be at play. But more so also, though, is I'm going to play the side of Amazon, though. Maybe Amazon is a software company. They're a tech company. They understand productivity better. They see employers. They have tracking, not employers, employees. They have tracking. They see who's keystrokes. They see who's on, see what's going on. Maybe they look at it and they determine that maybe employees, when they're working from home, are not as productive. Maybe they have to be in the office. So I can tell you from my experience in corporate America, to learn, become better at your profession, depending on what the profession is, sometimes you need to be in the office to learn from other people.
100%.
Yeah, so to learn from other people. You working from home, how do you expect to become the best employee in your area if you're not interacting with people and the questions that you have? And that interaction, it means a lot. So maybe they have analytics a little bit more. Maybe that could be a circumstance as well that they're factoring in.
It's a great point, man. My point on this is going to be a little bit more predictive or speculative. And so like coming from, a corporate experience that, I had at a publicly traded company, I would say that a lot of people who I think do better working from home are people that don't want to play the social game in an office. Because when you get a job, it's demanding. And there's things that are going on. And the worst part about an office is the office. Not only do you have to be good at what you do, but you have to act in a certain role, right? Or like you're just not going to fit in, or you're going to create antibodies. And I think that people are tired of this because there's a lot of studies behaviorally that have come out in the past couple of years since the pandemic that talk about how when people feel like they are abridged or censored in any way, they just don't perform well. And so if you have some rigid office culture, like your employees are just not performing well. You can make fun of the ping pong tables and all that stuff all you want, but the numbers show that people that are more relaxed, they just do better. And so I'd like to see if this is going to bring up that topic, if forcing people back into the office. And so these people have already been sort of charged, they're already kind of vigilant because of the pandemic. I'm curious to see how many people are going to put up with the bullshit office environment that these generations that came before us have created. Nobody wants to do that shit. Nobody does, And so that's an interesting point for me is like, okay, bring the people back, but let's see how the people react. Let's see if they're willing to put up with that, especially when you can, do OnlyFans, like we just talked about last episode. OnlyFans creators are making more than NBA players. So, what exactly are you benefiting from getting in the office? I'm definitely not getting free shit. No, the food is awful. You know what I'm saying? So, I think we're going to see, if they want to return to office, a new revitalization from the office experience, or I would like to see that.
I just want to bring one point though. Amazon wasn't everything about the tech companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, all these companies are about making the office fun, relaxing, the ping pong tables, the coffee, the free coffees. They wanted you they wanted you to work long hours, but they also wanted you to have some benefits there so you could work those long hours. So I can understand the justification, like an old school company that's been around, that's the rigid, like old ways. But Amazon and some of these software companies are trying to impose that new methodology or that new method of keeping people there by giving you food, by giving you coffee, by giving you the gyms and stuff like that. So I don't know. I
So
can't answer it.
if I recall from, sort of anecdotal experience from Amazon, third party opinions, because of the structure, everything's warehouse. Like they have so much time where like people are sorting and like on their feet, and it's not like Google where there's a ton of just sort of ambiguity and like, yeah, you made a product and you made some money and it could have taken you 10 hours, it could take you 10 minutes, but as long as you produce, nobody really cares. Amazon has much more of an individual contributor like footprint because most of their facilities are either truck drivers or packaging people or whatever it is. So like it's a lot of blue collar workers that they're talking about coming back into work, not the corporate people, not the people that like have these kind of peripheral jobs that just don't really do anything. We're talking about bringing 5 days at work that have like legitimate active working roles instead of doing like a 10-10-10, which I've seen has worked out really well. If you do like 4 10s or like some sort of hybrid sort of like work instead of just the normal 9 to 5 that we're all kind of used to. But I don't know. I mean, I'd have to like look into it a little bit more to see exactly who they're bringing back and why. But I just don't see why you'd have to. I feel like if you said we're going to have people in the office 5 days a week, and like that, whatever that looks like, we'll play it by ear. But if you just say everyone's coming in 5 days a week, that seems like a little rigid thinking kind of baby boomer mentality that we're like, come on, guys, like grow up a little bit, get with the times. Like we know that. I totally agree with you. Productivity, a lot of times for me, I feel like I get more done sometimes in the office than I do at home. I get it. I mean,
I mean, when you're in the office one day out of every 17 days, you tend to be a little productive, Chris.
Hey, Ricardo, by the way, where'd you go? Did you go get a coffee? It sounded like you
So,
were,
guys, I don't know if you've tried.
Kill a rat with a frying pan back there? What's going on?
Dinner
yeah,
time.
was something flying?
I don't know if you guys have tried Donut Shop, but they have a new flavor out for the Keurig that's like a caramel latte, and I made the mistake of buying it, and so now I'm addicted to it. So
it also has
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. There's definitely all the stuff in there that we don't want to put in our bodies. But
Yeah,
Did you buy that in California? I feel like that'd be banned in California.
I'm trying to not smoke weed today, is what I'm trying to do, because I have a bunch of shit. So
wait, is that legal in California? I didn't know.
No, if you're sober in California, they fine you.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
So cut open the donut shop, run a line, and just snort the caramel donut shop. You'll be fine.
Oh my god! What?
All right,
Chris, that's
I'm not saying I've done that, but I'm saying you should just do it because it's better than smoking weed, probably.
I think so. Nah, I feel fine, man. Just love the coffee, man. Gotta love the coffee. So the question I have for you guys, and like so this came from my experiences. Like when we were going through COVID, like, and I was in some of these board meetings, I remember them talking a little bit about like employment insurance and how like when people were working from home, like the corporations still had to pay insurance for them being at the office, and like they were getting all stuffy about having to pay like employment insurance when people weren't coming in the office, which I thought was very, boomer of them, but like, like that was the only concern. Like nobody cared that people were dying. They were just like, hey, how come we have to pay employment insurance when these, and everybody's making like 9 figures. I think, that's kind of seems kind of shitty.
Well, on the insurance side, yeah, you have to pay insurance, employment insurance in anyway, like for a company, but more so it's workers' comp that becomes a bigger issue because if somebody gets hurt, are they really working? Or are they really on their leisure time? So that's a question. If you're driving, going somewhere, or doing something, how do you determine if somebody was injured on the job? Where are they going? What happened? So there's elements of that have not even been answered. Those questions are still out there. So I can understand dynamics with that are problems. So.
Yeah. And that's interesting. I mean, like good one. So, and then just to clarify, Mike had asked about office workers. I think it is office workers, Mike, too. Like I think it's office workers and the blue collar workers that are being called in. January 2nd is the effective date, I think.
Yeah. So Another example of what you're talking about, Ricardo, like my company, they spent a bunch of money renovating the building to bring everybody back in, and then, like nobody's working in the office building, right?
But that's
So
a
it's not
write-off. That's leasehold
just-
improvements.
Well, I mean, that's a whole other thing, but that's kind of the thing. You're spending all this money on commercial space, commercial real estate, and like office space and all this stuff. And like people are cleaning it, the lights are on, the air conditioning's running, the heat's on, and like nobody's in there. So it's like an expense that like they don't want to justify. So
Yeah, I mean, like, let me tell you, like, if you have to fucking install one of those, like, what are they, flotation chambers, so that people can take breaks in, during the day and float and be in silence, like, you're just hiring the wrong motherfuckers. You're just hiring the wrong people.
Yeah, I agree.
are you talking about like a sense tank, a senseless?
Yeah,
tank,
sensory.
whatever?
Yeah, because like, I mean,
Sensory
you gotta.
deprivation tank, whatever.
If you have to hire a sensory deprivation tank to get someone to come to the office, you may need to really think a whole lot more. I'm just going to
Well,
tell
you know what? They should put nap pods in as well. Nap
Yeah,
pods,
any of that
all
shit.
that stuff.
Look,
Those
Jesus
things-
did it.
those
Jesus
things-
brought workers back to the office with wine and bread. That's all you need.
And fish.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
God, you're
Look, those
really
little
religious.
nap pods are great in like London Heathrow. Oh, I've used those. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Was that the time that you got robbed?
No, I did see though a bag fall off of
Get my coffee.
the luggage cart and get run over. So
Hold on 1 second,
And
Chris.
it was
What do you think,
raining.
Ricardo? Hold on, Chris. What do you think, Ricardo? You're there?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
he's in
you
the back.
agree?
Ricardo,
You
what are you
agree,
doing back
Ricardo?
there? He's,
Absolutely.
he's
absolutely.
killing rats again.
hmm Yeah.
Oh, hey,
Now-
hey, Ricardo's here.
Hey!
Oh, man.
I got my donut shop in the house. Anyways, guys, 5-day work week. So that's one to keep an eye on. January 2nd. Let's see how many other companies follow suit. Right? Let's see what the reaction is from the workers, and let's see if any new issues come up on all of this stuff, guys.
Agree.
Yeah.
And that segments into Amazon. I think we're going to go into Tesla now. So I don't know if you guys watched, viewers, last week, but Tesla had a really big event, their We Robot event, where they announced the Robo Taxi and the Robo Van. And I think we got a clip from that just to check out for a little bit. Give me 1 second. Here we go.
Are we doing some MST3K on this?
I don't know what that is.
Elon's looking pretty good in his biker jacket. Which gang
Yo.
affiliation is that?
I think he's with Jax from Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, is that a Roomba? Is that a Roomba that he's getting in?
Basically.
All right.
I just found out
And
you
then-
get Roombas for your lawn.
Autonomous, fully autonomous,
he's-
unsupervised FSD in Texas and California next year. And that's obviously, that's with the Model 3 and Model Y. And then we expect to be in production with the Cybercab, which is really highly optimized for autonomous transport in probably, well, I tend to be a little optimistic with timeframes. But
I feel like Elon talks like he's done way too much cocaine. Like
Sorry,
where he
can
can
you pause it?
barely
You can pause
barely-
it? I don't think you can pause it.
barely get on. He could barely get his words out. I feel like he just
I think-
that's what
I think he's a humanoid.
like a
I
robot.
think
in
Yeah, I think
in
he's a robot.
2026. Yeah. Before 2027, let me put it that way. When you get in, you'll see like it's really quite a wild experience to just be in a car with no steering wheel, no pedals, no controls, and it feels great. Something we're also doing is, and it's really high time we did this, is inductive charging. So the Robotaxi has no plug. It just goes over the inductive charger and charges. So yeah,
Just don't get near it. Just don't get
like
near
robot.
Yeah.
It's the same techniques, and then
Let's see
we
what else he's
colon
got.
cancer.
progress dramatically year after year. So if you extrapolate this, you're really going to have something spectacular, something that anyone could own. So you could have your own personal R2-D2 C-3PO.
Didn't Will Smith star in this movie?
Yeah, I feel like Will Smith did star in this movie.
I feel like I've seen this movie before.
iRobot.
Completely.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was the iRobot. That was the iRobot. But
I mean,
yeah, guys.
I would have tried to make it look anything like the same robot from a movie, a killer robot movie. Personally, that's what I would have. But I guess it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. So he introduced a robo taxi, which looks to me just like a souped up Roomba on meth, and a robo van. I guess it's just a bigger box. The inductive charging, which I think is really interesting. That's a big one, and the Optimus robot. So, what are your guys' thoughts? So, this is basically a big push on robotics. The reason I like this event here, even though this is Mike's topic here that he brought up, is because it's really fun for me to watch Elon pretend to make cars while he's using all of his money to create robots, and everyone's still driving his cars around. So I've always thought that he wanted to be the first to, break the generative AI or whatever. So it's interesting to me. I think he bought Twitter to collect data so that he could train his AI model, his language model, on all of the Twitter feed. And so I've always thought that this guy really just wants to make robots. I think he may be like a not yet turned into an evil version of Jared Leto's character in the new Blade Runner movie. I feel like that's where he's headed.
So my thoughts. First things first, autonomous vehicles will eventually turn around and, self-driving will be there. Now, it's a regulatory thing. When will they turn around and allow these vehicles to drive themselves? How good is the technology, the software itself? That's another question. This robo taxi idea is a great idea in theory. It seems like from this event, it's great. And if I had to put my money on anybody to do it, I think Musk and Tesla has, the advantage in this. Now, the robo van? I started cracking up on that because it was basically just a more luxury bus. When you looked at it the entire time, the director of iRobot, I forgot his name, made a comment about the vehicles themselves. And I hate to say this, they look very similar. The design properties all look the same, especially the
robot.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I definitely think it's a step in the right direction because this is where we are heading. I thought the event was a little underwhelming because this has been something that they've been talking for a while. It was a lot of glitz and glamour, less substance to say the least. But it gives you an idea of where the future's going. It gives you an idea of what's happening. Robots we know have been around. This is just a better evidence of where robots, how advanced and how much further we are. Part of the event, they were giving drinks out. They were bar servers and they were talking to people and stuff like that. That's a very innovative thing. But this was an event that just shows us the progress of what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but to me, the biggest thing is the regulatory portion. The Department of Transportation cannot keep up. I mean, it would take them 20 years to figure out whatever is happening. I mean, they're so antiquated, so old, and we would take a massive influx of cash in order for the DOT to get their head out their ass. And unless Elon funds it, which he might have to.
Of course he will. But do you think that's why he's trying to get in with Trump into the administration to have some influence over the regulatory stuff?
Yes and no.
Red tape, yeah.
Yes and no, because one of the bigger complex issues is, maybe at the federal level, the regulatory problems are, solved in a certain aspect, but each state will have their own regulatory issues that they have to overcome. Hence why in his speech, he said they've been given approval in Texas, and I think it was California. Those are only two states. There's a lot more out there that you have to get over. So I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen in 2025. It's possible 2025, 2026, but I think one of the bigger things is just that regulatory issue that you have to get past. Now, if you look at the government, and a lot of these senators have had, uh, I hate to put it this way, but they haven't really focused on this and the technology behind it. It's great to see a movie. It's great to see it in practice with them driving around in circles like in his event. But the actual application on streets in cities, that's a completely different world and model. So it's going to be an interesting to see, but I don't think tomorrow this will be solved. I think this is a couple years out.
Well, I mean, we already know that we don't have the microchip and semiconductor, supply chain to keep up with, scalable production for anything like this, especially with what's happening in China. But yeah, the regulatory piece is not going to happen anytime soon either. So
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, guys? That he says that you're going to be selling these robo taxis for about 30 G's. I mean, what do? You buy it and then you get rid of your car, and then when you're not using it, you make money. Like, what is that? What do you think he's trying to go with? I don't. Or is it just for people like businesses to like form their own taxi companies? Or
Well, that's a very good question. I don't know, because quite honestly, well, if you have the technology for the robotaxi to drive itself and you have a Model 3, why would you go buy a robotaxi when you can just download the software into your own vehicle?
right?
So it makes no sense in that regards. You could have people, but by the definition of the name robotaxi, I'm assuming it's going to be a service. I'm assuming it's going to be something that companies, counties, governments are going to use or try to use. I think the bigger component here, though, is the one thing that I loved was the new charging idea. That's a game changer in so many facets. I think that changes the dynamic electrical EV vehicles themselves.
Yeah, I think that was what he really wanted to talk about, but he like snuck it in there, and was like, oh yeah, and then also we're doing direct charging. People are like, wait, you're gonna have to dig up all the roads, like that's quite a bit.
Yeah, well, that line in California, what was it? What was it? Supposed to be the bullet train. They did a really good job so far with that bullet train from San Francisco to Vegas. Billions, and you've got how many hundreds of miles? So you're talking about, digging up lines and doing certain things. Yeah, good luck with that one in California.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. Like, it's interesting to me. Like, I don't know how this guy fucking does all the things that he does. It's quite impressive. But I think the sell-off, now that you guys talk about it a little bit, because there was a sell-off after the event for the Tesla stock. And so I think it may be very short-sighted investors that were banking on the car company continuing to try to break ground like in the EV market. And they probably see this as sort of being too diversified, and they're probably like, well, if he's going to make all this other crap, like how are we going to focus on the car and the car, so who knows? It's interesting to me that people sold the stock after the event. I mean, I don't see anybody else doing this except on AI videos. Nobody else is building robots and cars and taxis and all this stuff. I mean, there's companies out there doing stuff, but it's interesting to see this take place.
Well, I think one of the biggest components of the sell-off also was, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to reveal a new model, which was like a supercharged model, and they never revealed it. If I was reading the reports right. So also the other thing is, I don't think the sell-off had to do with the presentation itself. I think it had to do more so with the advancement and his timelines of what he keeps on saying. So he said by the late, I think earlier than 2027 in that video, which, to be honest with you, is 2 years away. So a lot of individuals were expecting it to be a shorter time frame, but
Well, I mean, if you think about too, like culturally, like all the money is in the boomers, right? Boomers don't want to invest in robotics. Boomers don't want to they want stuff that they know that's tangible, that they can touch, taste, feel, and and again, what we've seen from the marketplace since the pandemic, that microchips are a shortage. That's why NVIDIA stock is like through the roof. The only other company that's making the materials, Taiwan Semiconductors, and they're at risk of getting invaded by China any day now. So
it's going to happen,
there's
dude.
just so much hesitation in the supply chain that nobody's thinking about this like, hey, let's like invest heavily in Tesla now, because there's a ton of risk and nobody wants. I mean, I'm glad Elon's doing it, but he's basically funding it all himself. And that's cool. Nothing against him, but like there's a bunch of people, I don't want to invest in that right now. There's too much risk in what the potential future, and it could pan out. And obviously if it does, then he's going to be on another level wealthy than he is already. But there's a potential that it doesn't work out.
The greater the risk,
10 years.
The greater the risk, the greater reward. Like
Mike,
it's not going to happen overnight. The problem is it takes time.
move your camera down just a little bit, because it looks like
You want me to move my camera down?
that's better.
What, you
Because
wanna see
it
my
looks like
cross?
it looks
Okay,
like you're
hold on.
living in North Carolina, like you're a victim of the floods, like slowly sinking. You're slowly sinking away.
Talk about my. How dare you?
We had 30 minutes before the podcast to talk about this. Why I got to bring it up now?
Oh, I don't.
Jeez, really?
I just
Come on.
noticed it.
For all,
I just noticed.
for all you guys listening, Ricardo was a hater, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah, but he's drinking his coffee, his donut shop coffee, or whatever the hell it was called.
You know how we
Killing
do
rats.
it out here in
Killing rats in the
California.
background.
We're allergic to work, right? But yeah, so good points of view. Good points of view.
100%.
Either way, I'm excited. It's cool. Nothing crazy, but yeah, check it out, guys. We'll provide links in the description to all these topics and the resources that we have when we post the video on YouTube. So be sure to check it out. You'll be able to check out the same videos and some articles that we use to get our information and present it to you. Yeah, talking about robotics, one of my topics here this week is I saw a video with Edward Norton. I think you know who Edward Norton is, right? This actor. And I remember him
Hulk.
from yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, Ricardo, can you please tell me who Edward Norton is?
You'll
Can
see
you
him.
tell me
You'll
a
see
couple
him on the
movies?
screen here in a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But
Thank
I
you.
remember him, and I forgot till I saw this. But I remember he was part of CrowdRise. You remember that CrowdRise was like a big deal for a little while. So he's been entrepreneuring for a little bit, and this one caught my attention because it's really interesting, the model that he's got, and he's got a company that he's backing now, and they're targeting AI. It's an AI company. Ed Norton does. And their company is focused on corporate governance and trying to basically redo the whole corporate governance thing, the whole board meetings and how everyone votes and all these things. And he's got some pain points here. Let's check out this video, and you can see a little bit about what he's talking about.
I've had the experience even recently of getting the 90-page PDF like 24 hours before the meeting, grinding through it, in an airport, pinch scrolling on it because I can't read it like the New York Times on my phone. Getting into the meeting, and then the CEO reads you back the 90-page Bible you've just read, verbatim. And you're sitting there with your eyes glazed. No one has and you sit there thinking, a couple of us thought, this is in 2024, in a world where everything is in cloud-based tools that allow with multifunction dynamism to do all kinds of things. How can we be doing this really important corporate function on old fixed slide files? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, fixed slides. So
Boomers, man, boomers.
Absolutely, dude. Boomers love that stuff. Boomers love to write things down. So the cool thing is that some of the other things that he was talking about in the presentation, you guys can check out the full video in the link. Is that not only does he want to basically involve AI, but he wants AI to act as like a service. And so what it'll do is it will tell the other board members how long and which pages of the briefs that they actually spent time on, which I think is great. So holding accountable the board members, I think is great. And it also introduces a voting system for quorum to vote on stock issuance and all that stuff that you can do from your phone. And so it's interesting because what I see is sort of this private sector kind of ushering in this new way of sort of polling or voting or sort of interaction. And, if something like this was ever rolled out for people to vote, like in elections, it would be something that had to be proven in the private sector first. And so I would hope, and then maybe get you guys' opinion on this, but to me, it looks like Ed Norton might be incubating sort of a new voting platform that if you get the corporate guys to do it, then they kind of control the elections too a little bit, right? So it's like, if corporate America can do it, then so can, America's politics. So I'm interested what your opinion is on this. Mine is, like I said, it's cool, but I think it's a sleeper for something even bigger.
I mean, well, first of all, not to go too off the rails, AI has a ton of functions, and I would like to think that sifting through 90-page public reports, that most of the information in there is kind of wasted, would be super helpful for anybody, not just the CEOs, but just your average human being that wants to, educate themselves on what they're potentially investing in, or, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, but the thing is, it's funny. It reminds me of kind of Cliff Notes. Remember back in the day where you had a book that you didn't want to read because you played too much soccer or whatever other extracurriculars that you did instead of doing your homework, and you just look up the Cliff Notes for the book. This kind of seems like a more advanced version of the same thing. But I mean, if it does segue into voting, that'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Well, first, boomers don't like change. Okay? The baby boomer generation just wants everything to be the same way. All these new technologies, all of this are innovators that they haven't adapted to. So I think this idea is actually a good idea because I think personally it adapts to the generation. It adapts to the new technologies. It puts things in, new things in place where some things are just so old and ancient. So I think it's a good idea. Now, I haven't read too much into it. I haven't read into all the dynamics of the company or the programs that he wants to do. Some I'm going to probably say are good. Some probably are bad, just based on generalized, ideas in general. But if it's a segment into the formation of elections, that's the thing. Still, to me, I'm flabbergasted. How come we can't vote by using our phone, using our Face ID or our fingerprint or anything of that nature, where we can confirm who's doing that? We could do it in so many different areas, but when it comes to voting, we still have to go to a polling place and we still have to turn around and mail in our ballots. So hopefully this brings change that's helpful. And I'm going to support him because I like the Hulk and I like a lot of movies that he's in. So I think this is a phenomenal idea. So he's got my vote.
I like it. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting to look at. Not a place that I would have thought AI would have popped up, like I was thinking more like the kitchen first before corporate governance. But here's my question, right? And I posed the same question to my dad. I asked him the same thing. And he said he wasn't sure. But I said, okay, so like if these corporate governance AI models, right, become commonplace, and we're all investors, and so and you're looking at a company, how would it influence whether you would buy that company's stock, knowing that that company is using AI to do its corporate governance?
Very good question. Well, Chris, were you giving a thumb up? You agree? You're going to buy that company's stock?
No,
I mean, I'd be more interested if they're, we're thinking outside the box a little bit. I'm not saying just blanket AI uses for the better, but if they're utilizing it in a way that is more, effective and streamline some things, a little Six Sigma action, 100% for it. I hate that whole sitting back and doing everything. My least favorite staying is that's because that's the way we've always done it. Oh my God, makes me want to punch babies when I hear that.
I feel like it's anti-capitalism. The phrase "that's the way we've always done it" doesn't invite competition. The whole point is everybody can try their own way and let the market decide which way is best.
Well, that's why innovation is there. Innovation takes these older ideas and they make it even better through new companies, new software, new strategy, and new opportunity, new technology, whatever the case is. I think going back to your point though, would I be willing to buy the company stock?
Mhm.
If the company is a company that has solid financials and it has a good path forward, if it has great products and it has a good, market capitalization plan, things of that magnitude, yeah, I'm going to buy it. This just throws it on because it's willing to show that a company is willing to adapt. It's willing to use things that are beneficial to it, and that's if it is beneficial to them. So, yeah, I don't think this stops me from buying the company stock. I think it actually just entices me more to read up on the company and who's there because those leaders, executives are making decisions that could be beneficial to the company in a lot of ways. So I would be more intrigued to read more about them.
Mike, now you're kind of in the insurance game. Do you think that insurance, like corporate insurance and the director's insurance and all of that stuff, do you think if AI was introduced that would lower the insurance premiums because decision making would have sort of like this, backup system? Or do you think it would affect the insurance for these guys at all?
I definitely think it would affect it. I think, it's a new idea, to be honest with you. In that area, D&O, E&O, professional liability, all those areas, there's a multitude of areas that get impacted. I can't tell you if it's going to go up, it's going to go down, but it is a product. That's the thing it is. It's a product. It's software. So there's an element where it could be beneficial and it could be hurtful. I don't have that answer per se, but it's like anything that gets introduced to the market. There will be a new case. Somebody will get sued. There will be a problem, and then it will dictate the remainder of how that product impacts everybody.
Very cool. Very cool. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for your opinion. So check that out. And you can check out the full video in the link when we post it. And now we're up to, we're going to talk about stocks. That's right, guys, stocks. So this is our section here.
That purposely spelled incorrectly?
Yeah, stonks. It's what the kids call stocks. Yeah.
I want to let everybody know I had no idea that Mickey Rose over here was going to do that little thing.
Yeah, well, I'm curious because like stonks, and then there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other letters. Are there supposed to be? Is it stonks
To the moon? Because that's not to the moon.
That's not enough letters. Not enough letters.
No. It's actually, it's all baby pictures of you guys that I've coded in there. So.
Oh, it's so kind.
Nice. So, guys, I think this topic for the stonks this week is data centers fueling nuclear. All right. So this week, we had a bunch of movement in the market, guys, as far as Amazon cutting deals, Google cutting deals, Microsoft cutting deals, everybody, even fucking, Nabisco's cutting deals for AI centers. No, I'm just kidding. But but it seems like, and I think what Chris' point made that if there's a nuclear thing that's going to happen, it's going to happen super quick and without anybody talking about it because nuclear has built such a stigma over the years. So this is interesting. A lot of these uranium companies and, reactors like SMR and LEU, Centrus Energy, making the fuel for these reactors. They're shooting up this week when these talks about these deals. I know that there's one in Virginia where I grew up that's going down too for small modular reactors. And it seems like they're not really talking about climate change or any of that stuff right now so all of a sudden, yeah.
Well, nuclear is net carbon zero. So turns out that it doesn't, the whole thing was just, public opinion because of a couple of years. Obviously Fukushima, didn't really help anybody out. But the point I was trying to make was that, once one domino falls, then everybody's just on a race, right? So, we saw the 3 Mile Island thing happen, and then boom, instantaneously, Amazon makes a deal. Boom, Google goes out and buys their thing. Now we went from 0 small modular reactors being built in the future in the U.S. to now there's 10, like in a week. now we have 10 small modular reactors that are going to be built in the U.S. by 2035, and that happened in 5 days. And Oracle hasn't made a decision yet. They're like, I would be surprised if we don't hear some landmark deal from Oracle next week. And I don't even know. There's going to be other companies out there. Cisco hasn't made anything. We haven't heard anything about Cisco yet, and they're one of the biggest. I mean, I would be surprised if Cisco doesn't come out with anything soon too. The company you're talking about, X Energy, right, in Maryland.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're So X Energy uses TRISO fuel pellets that they get from LEU, Centrus Energy. The one that just came out, Kairos in California.
What is that? For the people watching, like, what is that pellet?
So
explain a little bit.
All of the new small modular reactors use highly enriched uranium instead of the LEU. Now it's I can't even remember the HALEU, whatever that stands for. And essentially, it's a more refined uranium, and TRISO is a patented form of a pellet, essentially, that is enriched uranium. And so it's like, you can only put certain kind of fuel in your car. You can only use certain kind of uranium for your reactor. It's the same principle. Somebody just wanted to make it so you can only use their specific type, right? But still, the only company that's mass producing this stuff is in Russia. So like Centrus Energy is still not mass producing it. They're only mass producing enriched uranium, the old school stuff. They're on contract to make the new stuff, and they're ramping up production. But as of right now, nobody's making this stuff on at a scalable level. And so now it's the wild, wild west right now. Everybody's going crazy. Stock prices are volatile as hell. I mean, we saw 40% from SMR, and SMR isn't even in any, and all the contracts that have come out of those 10 reactors, SMR is not involved in any of them. SMR is a company. So by the way, there's a company whose ticker symbol is small modular reactor.
They also happen to be the main investor of that company is the Department of Energy.
So SMR, the reason why this is so weird, and this is why you can never predict the stock market. SMR is the only company that has an approved design by the Nuclear Regulatory Committee, and they're the only company that's not making a reactor in the next 10 years.
So
let me ask you a question though. So let me answer your question. How did this just all of a sudden happen? How did this just like pop? Like, why weren't we doing this? I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, 3
I've been
years
investing
ago?
in it. So Ricardo and I have been talking about it for over a year. Yeah.
No. My point is, how is it all of a sudden all these contracts and all these companies at the same exact time get the approval, or they're doing all this? It's amazing how the timing of all this happens. I find it very comical that it happens a month, 2 months before an election. I don't know. It's just, why hasn't this happened earlier? Was there regulatory confinements? Was there regulatory issues that they had to get over? Was there issues with just in general dealing with the companies themselves, suppliers? Was there red tape everywhere that they couldn't get these jobs done, and all of a sudden they just got pushed out? I can't tell you.
The answer is that in the middle of this year, there was a bill passed that banned Russian uranium.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the key. We are not allowed to purchase Russian radioactive material. And so all of a sudden, when that spout got cut off, everybody started to panic. And I think that's why we're seeing this like massive, everybody all of a sudden realizes that Russia is not coming back. Ukraine is a big deal. And now we have to somehow, and on top of that, AI has this massive energy requirement, and solar can't do it. I think it's finally gotten to the point. Enough has happened where everybody's starting to realize that a lot of these sustainable energies are not the answer. And corporations have now done enough research to make a choice that has a favorable public opinion. Because if you had said a year ago we're going nuclear, people still would have freaked out. And it's just,
you think corporations didn't? You think corporations didn't know this a year ago?
Oh,
That
of course.
the
100%.
the data
Yeah, 100%
centers and the energy constraints on all those and what you needed.
Well,
I
look at
think-
this. Look at the stock, Chris. So Chris and I found, in for everyone watching, this is NuScale Power's SMR, and this is their prototype or their model here of a small modular reactor. And for everybody at home who doesn't know what that is, basically the technology was developed for submarines, and so they basically took the reactors that they'd been using from submarines, right, which they considered safe because there's a bunch of dudes in the tube with them, and then they've started to vertically place them in the earth. And so if you can see that there, it's it's much smaller than a regular reactor, and it's something that's been kind of tested to tried and true as far as like in the submarines. And so
aircraft carriers
Aircraft
and
carriers,
submarines, 30, 40 years, no issues. So.
Right. So I think that Mike and Chris, I think you guys are onto something about these companies. Sort of, obviously they knew. Now the question is, are they trying to cut these deals before the election because they feel that whatever administration is in power after the election is going to make it hard for them to do so?
I think they're hedging. I think they're hedging, quite frankly. I think realistically they're hedging. Okay, if Trump wins, I think the floodgates open because he's about less regulatory policy and he wants innovation, he wants growth, so he pushes that. I think they're also hedging against Harris because they try to get these deals in before Harris and Democratic Party is all about regulation in a lot of areas, which could be good or bad in this case. But if we beat them to the punch and use the election as an advantage to get those approved right now, then we can have a sustainable model right now as is.
That's a great point, man. Yeah, because like if you get the deal done, then let's say that Trump takes office, then you may have to be able to fast track that building and get a lot of subsidies. And if maybe the other side doesn't want that to happen, well, you got something in paper, you have something in ink. Yeah. And so it's going to be tough to say, hey, well, we already got this taken care of. Like maybe it takes longer, maybe it's harder.
We still have it.
Right, but we've locked it in while nobody's paying attention. Because let me tell you right now, nobody in Washington is paying attention to anything but buying ads and winning elections.
Well, if you look at the timeline, last year, SMR got approval from the Nuclear Regulatory Committee. Last year, Centrus got approval from the Regulatory Committee. So there's been some stuff that's been moving in the last 12 months.
And Centrus is Bill Gates.
No, Centrus is not Bill Gates. I don't think Centrus is Bill Gates. Really?
It could be. I thought it was Bill Gates. Let me look it up real quick. Go ahead.
No, so there's been some approvals, and the problem is that there haven't been approvals from the Nuclear Regulatory Committee for a long time, and so now all of a sudden, the Nuclear Regulatory Committee is open, and so this is all, by the way, this is all kicked off by the UK. So the UK has been. They have down selected a few companies for their future nuclear power plant. Like they're going to basically change their entire grid to nuclear, and they've down selected to a few companies it's gone going for a long time, and everybody's like, dude, hurry up! Like it takes 5 years to build one of these things. Like, come on, time's ticking.
I'll tell you why it took so long. It's because all of the members on the committee needed to buy stock in those companies.
I was just going to say that because let me tell you what happened to this stock.
They couldn't do a lot at once. They had to accumulate at small periods.
So Chris and I bought this. We found the stock. I think I bought it at $10. It went down to $6. I rebought at $6, but under $10. And then all of a sudden this morning, it's up 40%.
It's $20 a share. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's $20 a share in 24 hours, guys. So they had this, I call it the incubation period, where they let all motherfuckers liquidate their shit so they can invest the money because not everybody's liquid. And then they let everybody put their pie in, and then boom, they release what they're going to do. So
you're saying you didn't give me this tip? How long ago?
I gave you the tip.
So LEU is actually
and the shaft, Mike. You got the tip and the shaft.
Everybody's paying attention. LEU is actually safer.
I do not consent to Rick's verbiage.
Oh, dude, it doesn't matter. Consent doesn't matter under this administration.
So SMR has has always had the most potential, but for some reason they're not. I don't know what happened in Idaho. I don't know why their plans fell apart, but they're the only one with approved, they're only one with approval to build an SMR. But for some reason, nobody's using them. Kairos Power, I've never even heard of, and I've been paying attention to a lot of stuff. Kairos Power, they're going to build 7 plants. Never even heard of them. Obviously, I've heard of Xscale or X Energy. X Energy and Centrus are in bed together. So that's why Centrus's stock has gone up 60% in the last 3 days. Their stock is up like 75% this year or something. It's ridiculous. But the question, like I asked last week, what's next? Like, who's Oracle going to go with? I mean, if Oracle goes with NewScale, they would be the only ones that would be making the safe play. But what is it about NewScale that is preventing everybody from buying it? I don't know the answer.
Well, they screwed up all of the project that you were talking about in Indiana or Idaho or wherever.
Idaho,
yeah, I mean, I was reading a little bit about that, and it's not technology, right? So like, it's not that technology didn't work, but that project got scrapped because of accumulating costs and pushing timelines.
Yeah,
and so, right. I mean, it's not like that, once you get them in the fucking ground, they're going to work. But the point is, like, who can deploy at scale? And if you can't deploy, one project on time, and if you have the word scale in your fucking name of your company, then you better be on time, and you better be be able to scale.
Let's take a step back. So NewScale is a private company, right?
They're publicly traded, but
publicly traded company.
Well, publicly traded company. Okay. So the fact that I just heard that they couldn't perform because of additional costs and they couldn't stay on point. You sure this is not a government ran?
No, but
that's the question. They're the only one that have an approved plan. They're the only ones that have the.
I'm sold. There's too many senators. There's too many House representatives that have
there's some nepotism. There's got to be some nepotism, right?
No, the largest shareholder is the Department of Defense Department of Energy for the United States. So if they like to win their bets, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only government-ish backed private public nuclear reactor company that's coming out with these right now.
Gotcha.
Yep. Kind of scary.
All right. Well, you guys,
there's a bunch of them out there. So
we'll keep talking about this. Is going to be a conversation that we're going to keep going because we're going to describe the situation as it progresses for you guys. All right. So we got some voter stuff that we're going to talk about, but let's go into some of Mike's topics. So let's take a break, guys. Let's talk a little bit about sports.
Go Dogs!
Yeah.
Oh, this is
one of the things that we didn't get to talk about. Here. Last week was sports because we were highly disorganized. But this week we are going to talk a little bit about sports, and specifically, Mike has brought up the topic of the college football alignment. Yeah,
so
college football realignment. Mike, we got a graphic for you. We got all sorts of cool stuff. Man.
I'm a massive college sports fan. I'm a massive football fan, just in general. I am conflicted with all of this realignment. I'm conflicted with everything that's going on. I understand that college football, the alignment is basically because of college football, the revenue generated. So as you can tell in the lovely photo, which is the Big Ten, they generated last year in revenue from $880 million. That's not a small amount of money. Now, the interesting thing, which I'm going to highlight to the left of that photo, is Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. Those schools just joined. Now, as it relates to college football, that's great. I think it's phenomenal. The competition with the teams, I think it's awesome. I think that it's great. But they're nowhere close to where the other schools are located. Imagine like UCLA is flying to Rutgers next weekend. You have Penn State flying out to USC. Is this really any more amateur sports, or is this minor leagues for the professional sports? And the other point of it, which I get very, very upset, is football-wise, it's great. I don't know how I feel as it relates to basketball and the other, sports, because there's history. There is a lot that was in place. Like one of the big things for me is the Big East Basketball Conference was the premier basketball conference back in the day. And it got, basically destroyed because the football teams decided to go to the ACC, and then all of a sudden there was a realignment again. So it's good when it comes to football because that's a generator, but I don't know how I truly feel about it overall. I think I don't know if it's actually benefiting because now you're just having so many teams jump. The best teams are going into the Power Five conferences, and there's basically the middle, like the mid majors are not mid majors anymore. They're like a second tier. They're like Division One AA.
That's what I was going to ask. Whether you thought it was like more about like make each division more competitive.
I used to love the fact that there used to be the Pac-12, which had so much history of USC, UCLA, Oregon, Stanford. All these schools,
Arizona, baby.
They were teams.
Bear
You knew
down.
the Pac-12. They were the West Coast teams, and you knew USC. They had their run. UCLA had a run. Oregon always was. They were always there. They had great teams. It's like Pac-12 is gone. It's literally gone, and now you have all these other second tier. I don't want to say second tier schools. So some of the schools are very good, but the Mountain West schools that are now coming over. I can't believe that the Pac-12 of all conferences got decimated by the realignment with Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA just leaving and going. I think that falls on, believe it or not, the commissioner of the Pac-12. That's the problem because those schools still generating money.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know how you guys feel, but this is just a sore subject for me. I think it's this is not football anymore. This is all about money. It's a financial thing, and yeah, football. It's great to see all these teams and fewer conferences beating each other up. But then I look at the other sports, and I really think it's a good move.
Well, so here there's two things. One, it's hard because I'm a diehard Pac-12 fan. I'm a West Coast guy by trade. The quality of football is just so much better now. I mean, like,
really?
Oh my God! Like, look at the lineup, dude. So, like, typically in the Pac-12, the biggest problem was there would be like, Oregon, maybe Stanford, maybe UCLA, maybe USC, occasionally Washington, and then that's it. It's sometimes Utah, but like Colorado was always a walkover. No offense to Arizona schools, they never really were very good.
Basketball.
Oregon State was always so like when you're watching football, it was essentially like, okay, Oregon USC big game, like Oregon Washington big game, UCLA USC big game, and like outside of that, it was like blowouts. I mean, how many times you turn on the TV and watch Oregon or USC or UCLA blow out some team 60 to 7,
you're right, dude.
Right?
Absolutely.
And now Oregon just played Ohio State last week. They still got to play Michigan. USC is playing Michigan. Penn State's playing Washington? I mean, like the games are there's so much more quality football that it's hard to not enjoy, like if you're just a football fan. But also the other thing is that this alignment happened very quickly after the NIL change, right? So like it's hard also not to want to like promote this kind of thing because the players are making money now. And like if you're part of the Power 5 conference and you have the ability to make money off your image, like why would you want to go to, no offense to anybody in, like some of these, smaller conferences, but like why would you want to go when I can go and I get on the stage of a game where like if I'm an Oregon or Ohio State or Alabama or whatever these schools, right? All I have to do is just wear my jersey and people are going to pay for pictures or whatever it is, right? So if you're part of, I don't know, some Louisiana Tech, no offense, Louisiana Tech, But like
No, there's offense there. You're trying to make fun of them.
Nobody
so
cares.
don't dare you
Nobody
say
cares.
no offense.
But it's
you could be
warranted.
the greatest player in Louisiana Tech history. You're going to get $5 for your image in NIL thing. It's just not going to happen.
Look at Boise State's running back. He got more money to go to those schools, and look at the notoriety, and he still got. So where is the line being drawn? Because you have players that are being paid obscene amount of money. Look at Florida State's quarterback. He got paid a ton of money to go play there, and was that a good move?
No.
I don't think so. So at the end of the day, look, I agree with you. Look, if you could get paid money and you could go with the NIL deals, 100%, I understand that. But I also think, though, that still those other conferences, Pac-12 had a massive TV contract. UCLA,
that's the problem.
The contract's still there. The teams are just not there. So the whole thing is Oregon, the same thing. Oregon, USC, Oregon always going to have fans. They're always going to have money. The same way USC, the same way UCLA, the money is always going to be there. The exposure was always there as well. Now the question is not just football. Take football out the viewpoint. USC, UCLA, and Oregon were amazing baseball schools. They always had talent. They were always good. Arizona was always a good team. Arizona State's always a good team. Not too familiar with Washington. I have a couple of players, but now they're all, I believe, in the Big Ten. Is that a good move? You just decimated the whole West Coast Conference and what was the West Coast pride being in the Pac-12, now saying you're in the Big Ten. So I have an issue with that on its own right. USC was a proud school in the Pac-12 representing. UCLA was a proud school. Okay, so I don't know. I just have a lot of issues with it. I think football, the realignment is good in certain perspectives and it's bad, but the other sports programs are where I don't agree with it, because the volleyball team, UCLA's volleyball team, is amazing. Okay,
Right.
like their water polo team is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Their softball teams are great.
So
It's
the issue is always about money, right? It's always
Yeah, I was
about
going to say, sounds like
It's
it's
money.
always about
So-
money.
perfect. So you said, Oregon, UCLA, USC have always been there. Actually, that's not true. So in the early 2000s, and I remember the exact year, Phil Knight donated $500,000 to Oregon and like $400 million to Stanford, because those
Yeah.
are his, and their football program exploded on a scene. And the thing
And they
is,
brought their baseball program back.
that's the thing, right? Which one drives the most revenue? When you play in a New Year's bowl game, just playing in the game, the school gets like $2 million, right? So like that articulates to all the other sports. Like football doesn't just get that money. Since Oregon got that donation from Phil Knight has donated over $1 billion to Oregon.
He
in
still
the last
donates.
2
It seems enough
That's
money.
the
Yeah.
only reason why Oregon has exploded on the scene now. But football's revenue generation, it just outpaces every other sport. But all those athletic departments, they get money when Oregon football gets $2 million for going to a bowl game. All the other sports get money. It doesn't just stay in football. So to me, all these TV deals, nobody's lining up at the bar to watch Oregon State, UCLA play college baseball. But
No.
you know what? You know
No.
where they got their jerseys from? Oregon State football.
So let me just interrupt. First, thank you for breaking down the financial elements of how teams get played to an ex Division I baseball player. I really appreciate that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you're right. I'm not disputing when it comes to the baseball, the revenue. Now, Oregon makes some money with the baseball program. It's not football. I'm not going to say that. Basketball programs are making
UCLA
is the
always
second.
makes money.
Yeah, that's the second generator. But that's my point, though, is these programs, you're financially benefiting from football, but you're decimating the traditions and the other things, being certain conferences for the other sports programs. Like you have the baseball, the basketball, and I'm using those as an aspect. I'm not saying. And by the way, the Pac-12 wasn't a slum of a conference to begin with. They were respected in so many avenues, and they made a ton of
Absolutely.
money. So it's like, okay, I get it, you're moving, but was it? It's definitely a step up, like conference wise. But was it really like such a amazing step up that you literally, and this is the truth, you literally decimated the Pac-12, like the schools that left.
It was knee jerk. It was definitely knee jerk because the first schools that left were UCLA and USC.
Yeah, disrespectful.
So,
I don't like them anymore.
As soon as the big California schools left, everybody like panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think honestly, LA has always been a problem. Let's just be honest. I think that's the problem. LA has 17 million people, and their fan base is massive. And I think as soon as they vacated Pac-12, everybody just
followed suit.
Got scared and didn't know what to do. Because I mean, to be honest, if that fan base leaves the Pac-12 is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Agreed, man. We got a comment here from one of our viewers in the chat. Thanks, Brian, for chiming in. He said Pac-12 commissioner was dog shit. He said
I agree.
He hated certain cable and DirecTV companies, and then every bar had DirecTV, and Pac-12 got pissed because the commission on the DirecTV licensing was garbage. So some info from the viewers.
Yeah, the only time we ever got like prime time was, well, not prime time. The only time we got like exclusive coverage was Pac-12 After Dark.
Yeah.
So, but nobody's.
So I can see that.
It's midnight in New York City when the Ducks are playing. No, it's hard to follow that.
So that's the importance of a commissioner. That's what this breaks down to. The Big Ten commissioner, the SEC commissioner, the Big 12 commissioner, they're doing a better job, to say the least. It's a sore subject for me. I think it's good in certain areas, it's bad in others. But I saw what happened to the Big East basketball-wise with the tradition, and it got destroyed. And I'm afraid those traditions, those USC, UCLA games, the Oregon meeting the Stanfords, the Washington playing the Washington States, the Arizona's playing, or the Utah's playing Oregon and beating Oregon. How many? 3 years in a row? 2 years in a row when Oregon was a top 10 year?
It didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So
figment of your imagination.
No, wasn't that the game where the guy intercepted the ball or went to score a touchdown? He dropped it at the one.
That was Utah. Utah dropped.
That was Utah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Utah
returning for a touchdown. By the way,
but you guys lost that game, right?
No, we won. We won that game.
No, I think you guys lost that game.
No, that
I think
game
it was a
we won.
blowout.
It was like 3 years in a row after that. But for the record, just real quick, Brian, thank you for your comment, but also I hope you choke on your Thanksgiving pizza, you son of a bitch.
Okay, and that's a perfect.
And we're segue into the next topic.
That's a perfect segue into election 2024. All right, guys. None of us have any party affiliation. We basically just analyze the topics. So neither way, guys. The point is to get out and vote. We got a lot of viewer feedback about talking a little bit about the discussion. The election. We're only 20 days away. I grew up just outside DC. Mike's in New York. And Chris in Oregon. I'm sure he heard the word election when he was growing up at some point. But I mean, he can definitely contribute too. And so we got a couple topics that we're going to discuss. One of the most interesting ones, and I'll just touch it off real quick here, and then we'll move into some of the other ones, is that voter volatility. And so one of the things I've noticed a lot about this election, and at least the public, compared to other elections, and some of the feedback I've gotten from some guys that are a little bit older than me that have been through a couple elections themselves, they were just letting me know that they thought that compared to other elections, there's more voters now that are undecided in general than there have been in past elections, right? The other thing that's a really good feature to take a look at too is not only are voters more undecided, but it seems to me, guys, and let me know what you guys think, and guys in the chat as well. It seems to me that both parties equally are doing less convincing and more distracting the closer we get to the election. So it seems like in past elections, each party would sort of try to sell their policy points harder and harder as the election came in, sort of like doubling down on them. But it seems like they're not doing that right now. It seems like they're all going on podcasts and interviews and like doing a lot more distracting than they are doing convincing. So just wanted to get a feel from you guys of what you guys thought might cause that, or if you have any opinions on what might be going on, anything our viewers can use to help themselves make a better, more informed decision would be great.
Well, I don't know, Mike. So what I've noticed over the last how many years, everything's more emotionally based politics than like rationally based politics. So like what you used to see is like people like you said, rationalizing their policies and trying to get things across the line. But now what you see is whatever they think is going to be the most a sound bite, right? So what we're seeing right now is we see this like, the loudest 10%, right? The loudest 10% on both sides, they seem to, gravitate and take up a ton of volume, a ton of time, a ton of air time, right? And so what it seems to be is that each candidate seems to be doubling down on what they think the loudest 10% is going to gravitate towards, more than trying to get the other 80% on board, because that's just kind of how the landscape is with what like podcasts and all this social media stuff. And so it doesn't really, it's both sides, right? There's another one where the guy was, this is a topic, like the guy was like, we're going to fire people that have pronouns. Like, that's just so ridiculous, because like all you're doing is you're activating the the extreme 10% to side with you, and alienating, and you're hoping that you're alienating a quiet majority that's not going to vote. And I think it's going to backfire in a lot of ways for people.
And just to clarify Chris's point, we did some research on, just engagement and behavior online. We were trying to do a startup here like a year and a half ago. And we found out that most of the content, the actual stuff you read and see, a good 80 to 90% of it was created by the 10% most extreme of both sides. And so when you go on Twitter, who you're talking to is the most extreme of both sides of the spectrum. That's all. And those people are producing most of the content online. So if you're exposing yourself to information online, and all of us do, just keep that in mind, especially if you're one of these guys that argues with people in the comments, who I think you need a therapist, dude. Like, don't do that. Like, you want to, pick a fight with somebody in real life if you really want to challenge, right? But these guys, that do all that stuff, like it's pointless, because it's literally, you're taking an extremist who has an extreme point of view from either side of the spectrum. And those are the people that are getting the most content online. And through Chris's point, it sounds like he's seeing that candidates are trying to activate those loudspeakers more than they are trying to present their policy and platform.
Yeah, for sure. And it's working because those 10% of people are just gravitating towards it, and they're putting out more content. And you see, it's just a regurgitation of the kind of the same thing that we've been seeing. But I think what's happening now is the majority, the quiet majority, the people that are more central, the other 80% of the population that might lean a little bit left or a little bit right, depending on whatever thing pushes them in that direction. I think a lot more of those people are going to turn out to vote. And I think the problem is we don't know which direction they're going to vote, and that's what everybody's terrified about. And so that's why everybody keeps doubling down on their strategy and saying this more and more extreme things, because they're terrified to find out that the quiet majority doesn't approve of what they're saying. And
it's a game.
It's
a game. It's a game. Every elections are a game. Do you realize candidates change their positions every 2 seconds? One day they'll say, we're building a border. The next day, no, we're not building a border. And then they get slack and we're building a border. And they put out these plans that have these talking points that don't have really no plans. They have they do their research. They understand how people feel in their research part, and they write, excuse my language, but bullshit. It's bullshit. And then all of a sudden you get all these people, the voters themselves. Now, a lot of people that are voters how many people that you know that actually read into all these policies, things that come out, how it impacts them? A handful. So what do? All these politicians and candidates, like you said, it's the sound bites. It's what catches. And it's okay, we could put this on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We could get the media to write this. They're going to pick up on this. It's a game at the end of the day. The problem is candidates. Who's connecting with who? And the problem nowadays is the candidates. I hate to say that. Candidates are not like the old school way where it was you could kind of believe them in a certain sense because you didn't have to worry about the bullshit.
Wait, dude, did you just say that the old school way was that you could believe the candidates?
Meaning you knew, like, for example,
No. I believe you. But like, how do we get to the point where like, it's okay that we can't believe them? Let's still elect them.
It's to the point where back in the day, I personally feel when you were reading articles and you were reading, because I'm talking about years ago. I'm not talking in the last 20, 30
Before
years.
they're doing drugs.
Yeah. A candidate would say, and from what I saw, how they felt. We're going to do this. We're not going to do that. It was a little bit like, and they were more concerned about their reputation. They weren't as concerned about their reputation because it wasn't as globalized. It wasn't as, you didn't have social media. So they can say something to a guy down the street and it's not getting on Twitter or TikTok. So you could say those things. Nowadays, you have candidates go on interviews and they tiptoe around everything and they worry about what they say. You can't connect to a lot of the candidates. And I hate to put it this way, there's a reason why so many people kind of, gravitate towards certain presidential candidates. You could see why they play on it. Like Cole, let's talk about Trump for a second. How many people gravitate towards him because he just says what's on his mind? Sometimes he says things that don't make sense, but he says what people feel, how he feels, because that's who he is. Might not make sense. He might talk in circles, but that's how other people feel. So I just think the candidates nowadays, I think people are reading through it nowadays with social media. They see it more. They hear it more. I think that's why there's the volatility.
Absolutely. Chris, I think you should turn your light down 20%.
Dude, I don't know how to do that. I'm a millennial, man.
But
my forehead's distracting you.
I think, Mike,
I'm looking at it.
It's hard. I wish I could move myself into the middle. I don't know how to do that. I can. Watch. Booyah. I think it worked.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that. So beautiful.
There you go, buddy. You're out of the way.
Hey,
all right, guys. I think that's a really good point. And so,
is that better? Can you see my pimples now?
I think you should turn it back on, but just lower. It doesn't
hey guys,
matter.
I just want to let you know a little bit of an update. The Yankees are winning 5-3 in the bottom of the ninth right now.
Go
Go Yankees! Go
How are
Yankees!
the Padres doing today? How
The
the
who?
Padres game
I
going?
don't give a crap.
How the Padres doing today?
I think they're busy getting fitted for their new uniforms now that they've all decided to identify as women.
No, they're all partying downtown San Diego.
I was just gonna say, they're
or
all
whatever.
partying.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they screwed that up, but that's
It's Thursday night. They're all at whatever that race car place or whatever it is.
Race car place
in
What
San
was that?
Diego.
What's the name of that
Who?
place? God, I don't know, man. I don't go
Indy
out.
500 where you are?
Yeah, the races are where you're at. I don't think he's drinking coffee, folks.
Yeah, I don't think so
anyways.
either because he's not making sense anymore.
So the cool thing I discovered was that there is
It
an
never made
index.
sense.
There's an index called the Peterson with a D, PEDERS, I think ON, Peterson Index, and it measures voter volatility. So if you viewers are out there and you kind of want to see how the volatility is for this coming election, check out the Peterson Index, and that's a good way to see how the demographics are leaning. The other thing we had is now. Just as a good one, because I don't know if a lot of viewers know, but we're all in 3 different places. Mike's in New York, I'm in California, and Chris is in Indiana. And so, Hoosiers, Who's your Hoosier podcast was one of the names requested. It's a good name. I think it's a good name. But anyways, I digress. So regionally, the question is: are states playing fair on candidate exposure? Chris, this is your topic. And I was hoping that we could like localize this, and I could tell you a little bit about what I'm seeing here in California, both on the media and local. And Mike could do the same, and you could tell the viewers a little bit about some of the things that you saw, just so that we can get a real view from 3 different geographic locations. You know, and
Well, I brought this up. It's all anecdotal mostly. I haven't like researched this on Google or anything, but like I've been traveling a lot lately, right? So I was in Virginia, I was in South Carolina, I live in Indiana, I went to Arizona, I'm in San Diego at least once a month, and I have seen a disproportionate amount of airtime for different candidates, and it was kind of, I guess, and maybe this is something I didn't pay attention to before, so whatever. But I noticed that in Indiana, what I see here, and this is a conservative state. Indianapolis is not a conservative city, not like any cities are really.
But Indiana is a very conservative state.
The state as a whole is very conservative, but there's only 800,000 people in Indianapolis, so there's not like a disproportionate amount of people in the city, so it tends to vote red, right? But what I'm seeing is Kamala commercials and Trump commercials, and pretty much equal. I haven't really noticed a difference, right? When I was in Virginia, about the same. When I was in South Carolina, the grassroots movement for Trump was out of control, but I didn't see any Kamala like TV, nothing on Kamala. Everything was all Trump. Arizona, grassroots movement, all Trump, only Kamala commercials on TV. No Trump commercials on TV, but I didn't see a Kamala bumper sticker anywhere in Arizona. And San Diego seems to be no Trump anywhere, regardless of you're not allowed to have anything Trump anywhere. It's all.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom passed a law.
And so it just seems silly to me, and I never noticed this before, and maybe this is just bias or whatever, but it just seems silly that now that we're paying attention to it, or at least I'm paying attention to it, it's definitely, there's a huge difference of what I'm seeing, especially from the media and from like the people around, and it's different in every state, and it's different. Like some states, like I'm seeing all MAGA hats and only Kamala commercials, and it's kind of silly, and I understand, I get it. I mean, but I thought it was fascinating.
So guys, check out this data point. So we're on track right now to be the costliest election ever, with a total cost of $15.9 billion in spending, and which will surpass the number smashed in the last election of just $15 billion. So 0.9 billion more in spending this election.
Wasn't Obama's first election the first one that broke the $1 billion mark?
I have it here. Hold on a second. Let me see.
I feel like the first year Obama won was the first time they broke $1 billion. So within, what is that, 12 years, we're breaking the 15 billion mark. That's pretty escalation of force is real there.
Well,
yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
Well, I'm looking at a graph. I wish I could share it with you. I think I might be able to share my screen. But let me see.
No dick pics, Ricardo.
No, I don't know if I can share my screen. Oh, look. Hey, Brian's here, and he brought me pizza. What's up, man? Yeah. Big shout out.
I hope you choke on it.
Where's
Big
Brian
shout
with
out
my
to Basic Pizza. Big shout out to
I just
Basic
want
Pizza.
to hold on. I just have one quick question. Chris, why were you flying to all those states? Do you have a lot of kids or something?
Yeah, he has a lot of kids.
Look, I've been in the military for 22 years. I got friends everywhere. So
gotcha. In all honesty, I think so. One of the things you were talking about is the exposure in certain states, but that's by design by candidate. If they know that they're not going to win in those states, or they're not going to expend money to run those grassroots, to run those ads because of the money factor. So I could tell you right now, Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, all of those states, Wisconsin, all of those states are the ones that if you were around them, I guarantee that's where you're going to see all the ad, the buying, the media, the airtime, the radio ads, all of that stuff. So I don't know if it's candidate exposure, which is the issue. I think it's just the candidates being, careful with where they're running ads and the choice of where they're running ads. So, quite frankly, I think Trump has no chance to win California. I don't understand why he would waste any of the those fundraising monies or the campaign money in that state. Maybe he's making a play for South Carolina. Maybe he's making a play for certain other states or generate more votes in those areas. But then again, you also have to remember PACs are where financing is coming from. So those PACs can run that themselves without him being involved. So I don't know.
United, boo.
Yeah, I think this begs the question on campaign finance reform, which is something that people have been talking about for a while. But I mean, I think I guess the question is, I know that TV companies and advertising agencies are legally allowed to extend significant discounts on advertising for elections. And so I'm wondering, and I don't know this, and I'd love for somebody to research this and tell us whether or not, certain states are, favoring certain clients or not, or certain candidates or not. It sounds like from what Chris says that if you're a red state, right, then maybe you got some favorable advertising budgets in this red state for us. And, if I'm a Democrat, then I'm not going to waste my money there, but if I'm going to a Democratic state, then maybe I got some significant advertising incentives as well. So it's interesting to me to see how the states, based on what, whether they're red or blue, are playing the game. It'd be interesting to see someone kind of see if there's anything related there, because it would be awful if that was the case. That would just add to the chaos.
Arizona was the one that I thought was the most fascinating, because Arizona is a swing state typically, right? I mean, it goes back and forth all the time, right? And I just thought it was fascinating to me that in a swing state, I didn't see a Kamala bumper sticker anywhere. I saw MAGA for days. And yet, when I turned on the TV, I only saw Kamala Harris commercials. I just thought it was weird.
I saw the same thing in Wisconsin. There was the only Waltz and Harris as well.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I really give a crap who. I just thought it was weird that the media was playing, or whoever's funding it was only Kamala. But yet, if you would walk down the street and said, "I love Kamala Harris," somebody's gonna throw something at you. And it was just a juxtaposition. I thought a contrast was really weird, especially since in Indiana, I get both, and I don't see a grassroots movement of MAGA. Like I don't see MAGA hats, I don't see MAGA shirts, I don't see Kamala bumper stickers. I see both, not necessarily in the same amount, but I don't see like an overwhelming majority of people wearing Trump stuff. And yet the media is only showing me Kamala stuff. I just thought that was kind of like weird.
I don't see anything here in California, guys.
Well, if we're talking about media just in general, that's a completely different topic.
Well,
I think
and, what's being reported, I think doesn't matter what you feel like. I think there's a bias in every which aspect. If it's Fox News, it's CNN, it's ABC, NBC, Newsmax, all of them. They all have an agenda that they're pushing. So I don't think a journalist that goes out and starts, oh, we see only here, this is one candidate, we don't see anything of the other candidate. I truly don't believe that. I think it's your own, it's your own vision. It's your own going to those places and, seeing what's really out there. So I don't put 2 cents. Now, what you said though was very interesting, because geographically you can tell which counties are which. Like for example, where I am, it is heavy, Harris. So you don't see a lot of Trump. Now he's trying to make a play in New York City, and you see some people that are a little bit more. Best way I could put it is more excited to show their enthusiasm by wearing hats or something of that magnitude. But it's still a Harris, geographical location. It's still Democratic in so many facets. So I wouldn't understand why you'd spend a lot of money in an area where you're not going to get a ton of votes.
Exactly. That, or even in an area where you have votes. Like, if my friends are coming to the party, I don't need to keep reminding them and so forth.
Was it like that before? That's again, I wasn't paying attention, but like I felt like, at least obviously I didn't move around as much when I was younger, but I felt like I got an equal exposure to both candidates, and I've moved all over the place, lived in California, lived in Virginia, lived in Missouri. I never felt like I saw such a drastic difference before, and maybe I
Right.
just didn't.
I agree with
didn't
you.
Notice.
It's both. It seems like it's very one-sided, state by state. It does. I'm not getting two messages. I'm also not seeing a lot of the local candidates stuff. You know, where it's like
I was just going to say that.
like it's like no. And then I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of our viewers just sent this in to me, reminding me that George Bush literally had a road sign in Arizona that said, "Do you miss me yet?" So talk about exposure. I think that's hilarious. I love billboards. I'm a big billboard guy. I think billboards are great.
Yeah, but you bring up a great point, though. You're not just the presidential candidates down the ticket. The exposure with those candidates is so minute. And when you go into the polling station and you look at that, it's like, okay, I'm going to go straight down. Like you start looking at names and you're like, who are half of these people? Did I actually do my research on this? Because you don't hear about them. So yeah, that's the major issue.
Yeah, so my mom is on. My favorite, one of the things I always remember, my mom's actually listening. I don't know if she is or not, but when I was a kid.
Hi, Chris's mom.
I remember
Hi, Chris's mom. How you doing, Ma? How you doing?
My dad's listening. Hi, Dad.
She was looking at the little book. She had a little book with all the candidates on it, and she was like saying
yeah.
She's like, this is what's wrong with politics right now. This guy bounced like $100,000 check, and the other guy like deforested this whole like hillside and whatever. He was like, and so she was like, how am I supposed to pick between a guy that is basically can't balance his own checkbook and a guy that's cutting down trees? And I had to pick one or the other. And I was like, oh my God, like how that got stuck with me forever, right? But that was just kind of like politics is insane. These are the.
So here's a good question, guys. For somebody who's in that perspective, we'll call it that. Which of the worst evils do I vote for? Like if somebody's out there, and there might be a lot of people, especially young people, who are like, man, both of these bozos are worthless. Okay. Like, what's your advice for them? I mean, we still want them to vote. I think everyone should go out and exercise their right to vote. I think that's one of the main reasons that we're great. But what do you do if you're confronted with that situation of picking the worst of two evils? Because I feel like we've seen that in elections before. So what if you're like, hey, last time it was Hillary and Trump, I hated both of them, you know, and now we have a similar situation. Like, you know, what's the advice for people? Like, you know, which way do we decide, or how do we make a better decision?
Well, I'll go first. I used to say vote what's best for the country. I used to say that. But the problem is there's so many people nowadays that just vote for what's best for themselves. So you'll be in a position where you are disadvantaged at that point. So I can't tell you. I think it's an individual issue for yourself now. I think it's more of, okay, is this going to benefit me? And by my benefit, is it also, can I benefit somebody else and help them? Whereas you used to vote for everybody, meaning, okay, this policy used to be great for everybody. I think it would help everybody. But at the end of the day, was it really beneficial for everybody, or did it really hurt me for the benefit of everybody else? So I think now it's more of, okay, if I can benefit from it, but I can also help others through that benefit, maybe that's the best way to look at it. But it's an individual decision. So I would say, you know, vote Kanye West.
I like Kanye. I think that segues into something. So Chris has a really.
I was actually gonna. Can I say something real quick?
Wait, but I'm gonna after it because I'm gonna hand it over to you real quick. So Chris has a really interesting thing that he says. We'll call it whatever, and I'd like for you to share it with the viewers here. And so, you know, the thing about the government's responsibility being not. You all right, Mike?
Yankees
just lost.
Blew it.
I knew
it's
it. The
5-5
Yankees,
now.
of course. So Chris believes that. Chris, what is that saying that you have about how government should be responsible for like maintaining a status quo, not saving individuals? That you, I think we were talking. So, anyways, I'll clear it up. So we were talking. Chris said that he felt, and I don't know if he does now, but it made sense to me that the government's responsibility was to provide a safe and a safe economy, a safe society, and overall protection and keep things moving for the people. And that the reason the latest administrations had failed is because the government got in the business of saving individuals instead of saving groups, and you can't win ever.
If you're saving individual, if you're going down to micromanage individual levels, then you're always catering to the lowest common denominator, and you can't solve the big picture. It's impossible. It's that's just kind of like the culture that we've established essentially nowadays. Everybody's, trying to do their little, focus groups. They're trying to get to the little micro level, and it's because it's popular, right? So like, I mean, what's better TV or better radio than like, going down and, saving, disabled people or homeless people or whatever. Nobody, like that stuff people are gravitate towards. That's what people want to see, like, oh, the government's like helping people, like displaced individuals or people that have like legitimate problems. But what about the other 90% of the population that has problems because of inflation, for example, right? And if you exclude the majority 90% of the people that have issues and you focus on the small groups, then you alienate so many people, and it's going to bite them in the ass. I don't know when. So at some point, it's going to bite them in the ass. And it's just been.
So you're saying we shouldn't? So you're saying we shouldn't see Shamu at SeaWorld?
Yeah, that show is over, man. DEI hire done. So that's interesting. Chris has a cool little graphic here that I'm going to show you guys. And so this brings us into another topic here. And so there's Chris, you want to talk about this one a little bit? I'm going to let you roll. I'm taking a piss.
Well, I mean, if you look at the landscape today,
what up, man?
I mean, essentially the culture has been alienating men in general, right? Because toxic masculinity and let's be clear, there are plenty of men out there that should be alienated because they've made poor mistakes. But this was a Twitter poll or whatever that came out, and it was just shocking to see this like drastic change in the direction. So it doesn't show it, I don't know why he didn't put it, but the graph on the top is 12th grade boys, right? And that's their opinion is conservative, and the bottom is 12th grade girls, and the bottom is democratic belief, essentially. That's the graph. So you see this like massive divide, and I just thought it was fascinating because like from my perspective, I've been around, I've seen a couple things in my day, and it just seems like to exactly what we just talked about. The focus group was for a long time on women, right, and feminism, and rightfully so. I mean, for tons of reasons, we should be propping up that group. But because it's gotten so extreme, now we're essentially they're alienating little boys, and they're becoming conservative. And I mean, I'm not surprised. It has nothing to do with abortion. Has nothing to do with any of these like really divisive political ideologies, right? It's solely that people are alienating. I hope you choke on that. Alienating men.
It's the Thanksgiving pizza product. Brian brought it for me.
They're alienating men, and this is what we're seeing. We're seeing that the boys are reacting to like, hey, the right or wrong, the right seems to be less anti-men than the left, and so why wouldn't they gravitate towards that?
Well, it's ideology 101, right? So Republicans have noticed this issue with men, just in general. Men have been getting attacked for how many years based on whatever topic it could be. So I can understand where Republicans, or the right, should I say, are opening arms and saying, you got to be strong, you got to be this, we're here to support you. So that's kind of the thought process that's really been going on. And the Democratic Party, or should I say the left, has been propping up women more. It's about, independence, it's about strength, it's about job, it's about certain things. So I can understand the divide, but that's kind of intentional. I think it's an intentional divide. And the problem with the intentional divide is if you cross over one way or another, you're not with your peers. And I hate to say that because that's where the trend is going. So I think it's just placating. I think it's also the parties, kind of, you know, seeing that divide and promoting it in order to
Or
gain that following more. It's
ex-
marketing, it's
exploiting it.
manipulation in a lot of
Yeah.
areas.
So if I put my Ricardo hat on, what's terrifying about this graph is you're dividing the sexes into two groups of people with buying power. And unfortunately, and realistically, I mean, women are bigger consumers typically than men are, but like if these individuals are separate entities, they spend more money on things than if they're together. That's
That's a really good point. That's
I
a
mean-
great point. So Chris was saying that, well, I think what you're saying is that this type of segmentation that we're seeing is to silo the groups so that they can get less from each other and need to spend more consuming because they don't have what they need from the other sex.
or rely on the government more.
There
Both
you
of
go.
those things, right? Rely on the
I-
government more and spend more money on things. Yeah.
I could definitely see that. I think it's a little bit of a fetch, to be honest with you, because
The
certain
rationalist.
industries, yeah, but certain industries, buying homes, getting married, costs with that, having kids, things of that magnitude together, those costs are now, it's different, like as it relates to that. So if there's a discrepancy in age groups or relationships and stuff like that, costs that would be spent together compared to being separated are not going to be there. I just think I think it's just the times, the intentional manipulation and control and exploitation. I think that's the driving factor. I think a lot of guys don't like that cause of all the problems in society, and or they contribute to everything just because they're guys. And I think women also don't like the fact that being independent is a problem nowadays. So I think you have both of these individuals that are being kind of geared towards certain things. I hope over time that changes and there's a more of a middle ground, but it doesn't seem like that's happening anytime soon, because you can see it just through studies showing how men look at things so much differently than women nowadays based on their philosophical, political, or just their views on what they now see or what they believe. I can't
Yeah.
see them coming back entwined.
Yeah, there's this great rule in behavioral science that is individuals will always move in the direction of more freedom and more liberty. And so it
Mhm.
seems to me like what's going on is a lot of the groups are being convinced that for some reason, if they are independent and they're not together, they're going to have an opportunity at more freedom and more liberty. And that's contradicting the message that we used to have in the previous decade or previous decades, where more freedom and more liberty came from joining forces with a partner. So you had more financial liberty and more financial freedom, more incentives, tax incentives, sharing expenses. And now that's being chopped up, sounds like.
Yeah, the white picket fence and all that. Yeah.
It's out the door, guys. What about just prices? I think this is a good one. So one of our good topics here that we would like to do is check on prices in each part of the country. So Mike, how's everything looking in New York? What do you got on your prices over there?
Oh, it's fascinating. I mean, it's great. The prices here are out of control. So I went to the grocery store not too long ago, and I just wrote down some numbers. I don't know how it is near towards you, but
I got my numbers.
a carton of 8 eggs near me was $9.39 this week. Whole milk was $7.09, and chicken was $9.99 per pound.
Holy shit! I got $5.30 for 12 eggs, $4 for milk, and chicken here is $5.99 a pound. No, $6.99 a pound.
Mm-hmm. And how about you, Chris?
I don't even want to tell you guys.
I want to hear.
It's a lot cheaper than that.
Tell the public.
I
at
want to
least.
hear this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the numbers. I didn't write them down, but just basically what you guys are saying, it's not that. I didn't guess I didn't get the homework assignment, but
Unacceptable.
Look it up
You're
right
done.
now on your computer.
Goodbye.
I'll
So
look it
now,
up.
so this is one thing I was going to say to you guys, because we're talking about grocery store prices, but the real thing I want to talk about, how much does it cost to go out on a date, go to a restaurant? How much does it cost when you go out with your buddies, grab a couple of beers? See, because I can tell you, if I went on a date to a nice restaurant, it's running me 300 with drinks, 400. I've gone on dates where we've had 2 drinks apiece with food and tip, and I'm talking about it's like 350, almost $400.
I'm gonna start dating Mike.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I do.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
Love
it's
to
not
hear
like
how
out
much-
here. I mean, I've gone on dates out here. You know, I can definitely keep it under $100 for sure. For a
$100
couple
bucks.
drinks.
I
Couple
mean,
drinks, go to a
here,
nice place and have some food, and it's still like, you know, $100 with tip.
we are literally. I'm looking at. I mean, drinks here, even beers, are going to be over $10. You know, and in some places $20. If you go to dinner for 2 people, and let's say each of us has 2 drinks. Yeah, it's
Not a
like,
McDonald's, Ricardo.
yeah,
Not a
like
McDonald's.
$150 probably. $150, $200. It's still a lot more expensive.
yeah,
Yep. Sorry, Brian,
yeah.
just
So
stepping
it's
out.
that's fine. You didn't get us any pizza, Brian. I'm very, very upset.
The Thanksgiving
Brian,
pizza.
Brian every year for the last 3 years sends me a picture of Thanksgiving pizza every day for October, November. When I was in Saudi Arabia, every day in November, I got a picture of a pizza. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I hate you guys. I actually flew back from Saudi just to eat that pizza. By the
Shout
way.
out Basic Pizza, San Diego.
I'm gonna throw out a controversial opinion.
Okay.
I lived in San Diego for how many years? Their pizza sucks. So I don't care what you guys say.
No.
Of course, the
the
New
Thanksgiving-
Yorker.
Just the Thanksgiving pizza, basic. That's it. Everything
I'll
else-
give you guys something great, which is irritating as hell. So Connecticut, when you go into Connecticut, they put up on their Welcome to Connecticut the pizza capital of the United States on their Welcome to Connecticut
bullshit.
sign. It is hilarious.
They also
It's
like to
hilarious.
touch animals. So
It's hilarious. Like, I'm sorry. There's a couple of good spots for pizza, like in New Haven, which are reputable, but nobody goes to Connecticut for pizza. It's a highway state. People drive through. It's not known really. It's known for a couple of nice areas.
they make
It's known for
helicopters. Sikorsky's
Yeah.
in Connecticut. That's
Yes,
about it.
for sure. Yeah.
Are they
But it's-
eating the dogs and the cats and the pets on the pizza? Are they putting the pets on the pizza?
I don't know about that, but if I
Everyone
remember
loves
correctly,
alliteration.
was it
Pet
Ohio? Where was it?
I don't know, man. I don't
Ohio?
think it even happened.
No, where was it that Trump said?
Well, people got to eat, man. You know.
The cats.
Oh,
are
the
eating
cats. They're killing the cats or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
they-
eating
I
the
think it was
cats.
Ohio. I think it was Ohio.
It was Ohio. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about how much it costs you to go out with your buddies, how much beers are. It's so much more expensive. Like everybody, like New York is known for its expense. New York is known, higher wages, all that cost of living, homes and stuff like that. But when it comes to going out to eat and drink, you don't even realize the amount of money you're spending for the same type of food that you guys are getting. Now, Ricardo, I understand you're in San Diego. It's California. Prices are higher. But Chris, when you're talking about when you're not doing your research on the cost and you say
I
it's
didn't,
much
I didn't
less than
care.
that,
So cheap.
okay. Well, that's good that you paid attention to our segments and
Well,
what
I
the
didn't
unique
get
nature
that.
of this show
Nobody
was.
told me. Nobody told me.
Look at the sheet, okay? It said, be prepared to talk about cost.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do your homework.
I skipped
Brian
that.
said,
I
"Way to
skipped
do your
that one.
homework, Ray."
Yeah.
So here's my question to you guys, and is what's the breaking point? Like, what is the price breaking point before you take to the streets with a pitchfork?
I can tell you personally, going on dates on restaurants,
Just across the board,
just-
eggs, gas, whatever. Tell me what
well,
your
it's
breaking
hitting,
point.
it's hitting a breaking point. So it's gotten to the point where I'm starting to go to Costco to get bulk and storing chicken and freezing it and whatnot. Because you go to a local grocery store here, it's getting to the point where, as a single guy, I'm spending 200 plus 300 sometimes. And it's like, how is this even feasible? I get 6 things, 7 things, and you're already at $100, and you're just like, how is this possible. Now, it concerns me because then you look at a person with a family of four,
Oh
you
my
know,
God. Yeah.
and it's like their costs are exponentially higher than mine. And I don't know, the breaking point, I think we're already at the breaking point. I think it's just too high, but I don't see costs going down. Stores have established those prices. It's not like they're going to be like, okay, hold on, chicken $6.99. Okay, we're going to go back to $3.99. No, that's not how it works. They've established the prices, and it would be stupid on their behalf as a corporation to go back and say, okay, we're going to charge $3.99. You short yourself $3 on a pound of chicken. That's not
Yeah.
how capitalism works. That's not how the market works.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, some of it's from COVID, right? Some of it's the supply chain getting just decimated. There's so many issues with importing and exporting of goods now because of the shipping and the strike, right? The strike is not helping either, right? Now all that does is just jack up prices. The other one is
Go AI. That's
Well,
where we need automation.
Yeah.
I mean,
Food
this
cheap.
is a hard one. But minimum wage hikes are also part of the problem, right? I mean, you can't exponentially increase minimum wage and expect it not to articulate into the economy. It just doesn't work that way, right? I mean, when all these people that are doing all these jobs get paid a ton more money all of a sudden, the cost is going to go to the customer. The business is not going to eat that cost. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that you have to expect some sort of trickle down effect into the economy, and the consumer is the one that's going to pay for it. That's just how it works. It doesn't work any other way, and I don't know how to argue, but that's one of the other problems.
What's your thoughts, Ricardo?
I think greedflation. I mean, honestly, just being in the back end and going to work every day during the pandemic, there's a lot of things that were happening behind the scenes. And, there's the very important, tax cuts that, I don't know if you guys know this, but Donald Trump had his administration initiated some corporate tax cuts. And those cuts reduced
to 21.
Right, was reduced the corporate tax rate from 28% to 15%. So this whole administration, the whole time that these guys have been in power, the recent guys, there's been an 8% subsidy on corporate taxes that has been placed in by the previous administration. And that tax code ends on December 31st. And so I think companies are trying to hedge the fact that they're going to have to pay, whether it's 5, 6, 7, or 8% more in taxes by inadvertently raising prices now before the tax cuts end.
Well, that 26%, 28, I think it was 26%. That was 8% or 9% higher than any other country.
We're still the highest tax rate in the world, corporate tax rate in the world.
I mean, it was ridiculous, right? So and the reason why all these cities like Detroit has fallen apart because we don't make anything in America anymore. And part of the problem is that 26% corporate tax rate makes people outsource their production to other countries. That's just what happens.
Well, I'm going to go back to my boomer bashing. Well, that goes to one of the things that I wanted to talk about last week. Was the boomer generation really a good generation? The reason why I say this is what did they do? Okay, did they make us one of the world's best economies? But how did they do it? They moved manufacturing, they destroyed cities, they moved manufacturing to other countries. We're relying on all these other countries. Now we're in a position where they're still in the positions that they are, and we're running trillions and trillions of dollars of debt. Meanwhile, their pockets are fat, shareholders are fat, they're making all this money, they're doing well, and the burden of everything is left upon us. So did they really do a good job? Are they really benefiting and helping us? No, in that same entire time, we have exponentially grown billionaires through at a ridiculous rate. Meanwhile, we have more people now on federal subsidies, welfare. The whole thing is I get it. There's parts of it that were great. There's things that were great, but we're still living in a time where boomers are running this country and running it in, I don't think, the right directions. Look at where we are right now.
The boomers of this generation are the longest in power because they are living the longest that anyone in any generation has lived before. They're living an average of 18 years longer than when I was born. So that means there's 20 years more that these people get to take control and do what they want. And that's an important fact, Mike. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. Please cut me off some more. Ricardo, aren't you a boomer?
Yeah. I'm 73 years old.
No,
Ricardo Skincare right here. Ricardo Skincare.
Yeah. No, my point though is I think there's a issue because I think there were great things that boomers did. I really do. I think there was positives, but I also think there were a lot of negatives. And I think the negatives just continue to outweigh everything now because we're at a point where it's just getting worse and worse with the system that they pretty much help. It was all about shareholders, stockholder. It was all about them making as much profit. And by doing that, they have decimated areas. They have decimated industries in areas. Now, the unique nature of our society, is the fact that the United States, our citizens, the innovation and the creativity to create products have helped in certain areas. It's unbelievable the fact that in our country, we have so many innovative individuals that are not afraid to take risks and create products that really matter and change people's lives. And they're working on those solutions now, but that's because of the fault of the boomer generation. We have shortages when it comes to manufacturing. We have shortages when it comes to just in general retail. We have shortages when it comes to other aspects of our economy. We have cities that used to be, how do I say it, powerhouses. They were built beautiful. They had people buzzing. They had factories. They had jobs. They had money coming in, and they were decimated practically overnight. And they still, to this day, have not recovered. Because we can send jobs overseas for $10 cheaper.
Yeah,
I have issues with that.
The model that they built of this increasing revenue annually, year over year, for like the foreseeable future, it was unsustainable, and they never really looked at the consequences of trying to perpetuate that to the end of time, right? And so then what we started seeing was, we saw this massive jump with innovation, like you said. We saw all these like great things that happened, and then all of a sudden, when there was no exponential growth, then they had to start manipulating things to continue the growth. So we started seeing, stock price manipulation with some of these, like we see like dividends and buybacks and like all these things that like didn't exist before that now exist. All that is just stock price manipulation for the investor. And then we started seeing we call
it financial engineering.
Yeah, financial engineering, right? Okay. And then we started seeing like ways to outsource labor to other countries because it's cheaper, right? And everybody's always just chasing profits. And we've gotten to this point where you can only chase profits for like a certain amount of time. Like business life cycles exist for a reason. You can't just say like, oh, the life cycle of business is just until the end of time. It doesn't work like that. There has to be an end of the cycle. You have to start with a new process, and some of the companies out there, they just lost sight of that somewhere.
Well, I think globalization had a lot to do with it, because what that does is it basically says I can put my trash in somebody else's backyard.
Yeah, but all of globalization so there's certain parts of globalization that are good, but I hate to put it this way, I'm more concerned about the person that's down the street. I want to see them more successful. I want to make sure that they can live their life. They have enough money. They can take their family on vacation. I'd rather that person have a job and be able to live a good life. I'm sorry, that's just the way I see it. I don't believe in, okay, we're not as profitable, so we're going to cut jobs in this geographical location so we can save money. I have more stock. My shareholders make more money. The stock goes up, which in return, I make more money. Okay, but that person that's been at this company for 20 years, we have to let him go. I think there's fundamental issues. I think capitalism is great in so many areas, but I also think capitalism, in order for it to work so exponentially good, is you have to have people at the top that understand the impact by their decisions. And I'm sorry, I think certain companies have great leaders. I think they do a great job and they make sure to take care of their employees. And where they have their businesses and warehouses. But then I think there's other companies that are just they care more about the almighty dollar than the people that work there, and they don't care about the where their factories are or whether warehouses are, the auto plants. They don't care about that. At the end of the day, they care about what's in their pocket.
Sure.
And that's
and
the problem.
there's ignorance, and there's people that I think go out and study the business model and say, hey, look, man, you know, we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to buy something for $1 and sell it for $2. Isn't that what we learned in school? Like, so I think there's a lot of ignorance going on, self-inflicted, especially if you're an employee at a company that isn't doing things the right way. You know, like, I hate to tell you, man, if we were like in Iraq, I would say, you know, put up with it. But in America, man, walk the fuck away. You know, like that company may not even be a company in 10 years, you know? And so like,
I saw a segment on Shark Tank where this goes towards capitalism. A guy made a company where he made a product and he employed, I think it was like 10 people in his hometown. He refused to go to China to get the manufacturing of that product done for a tenth of the cost. And I can't remember how many of these sharks were saying, you know, you need to do this. You need to be more profitable. And I was sitting there and this guy was on his principles and he was like, I will not do that. I will employ my friends. I'll make less money, but they have a job and we have a product that's in demand. Okay. And I am taking care of my town. And I thought that was admirable. But then there were sharks that were like, this guy's going to go out of business. His profit margins are too low. He could go to China. He could do this and all that. And it takes me back to the thought process of corporations. You buying a product from a corporation goes back to a corporate holding. You buy a product from a local store, it stays in the community. You know that money's going in the community. And that's where people have lost that train of thought. You used to have your mom and pop restaurants, you have to mom and pop pharmacies, you have the mom and pop stores where you go to, and that money was being recycled into the community. Nowadays, it's not. So,
yeah,
I'm done. Rant over.
No, I agree with you. I think that it has a lot to do with, I think, globalization. I think the globalists, whatever you want to call them, are like Tinder swindlers. You know, they're like, oh, you know, I'm going to break a bunch of rules. And if I get kicked out of this country, then I'm going to go over to this country. And then I'm going to get away with whatever I want to get away with over here. Oh, I can't do that? Well, this country lets me do that. And now they have, you know, now they're a multinational, but really they're just skirting taxes and costs and all of this stuff. And that's fine, you know, but there's no business exercise that should be done without taking in consideration human beings. Because if it wasn't for human beings, nobody would be buying your fucking shit. No one would be on your stupid platform arguing with somebody thousands of miles away. And, you know, like, obviously, like, there's a lot of people that are easily convinced. But ultimately, if you're making a business decision and it doesn't involve human beings, then you're basically speculating on something that's not in reality. And so, you know, that needs to be removed from the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you walk the dog, right? I mean, back in the day, the people that made tons of money, right? Like the corporate giants, Carnegie or whatever. There was obviously frivolous spending was available. There was luxuries that you could afford to buy, but there was no social media. There was no, you know, like photos of it on the news. So like it wasn't really in your face. And now we've done a couple things, right? We've removed, you know, we've removed religion essentially from a lot of people's, you know, worlds, right? So there's no, you know, moral ethical foundation based on something that with like some fear inducing, you know, thing, right? So there's no more, I'm afraid of what, you know, God's wrath. So like, I'm not going to do anything, right? And then you've also increased the availability of luxury items. I mean, like, what can't you get right now? If I have billions of dollars, I can get, I mean, we can't even imagine this stuff, but we see it all the time. We see it on social media, we see it on Instagram, we see these billions and billions of dollar, you know, yachts, and we see all these nice things in these cars in Dubai and like all this stuff, right? And so there's an incentive for people to get these things, and there's nothing holding them back. There's no fear of God. There's no fear of their parents. There's no fear of reprisal. And so if you're given the opportunity, as the behavioralist would say, you know, if you're given the opportunity to achieve a goal that involves luxury and success, and it involves screwing somebody over, most people are going to choose to screw people over for the success because there's nothing preventing them from doing it. There's no internal mechanism that's saying, maybe this isn't a good idea.
The gun. Yeah. Once you realize that you can be more successful by screwing people over and moving on to the next than by taking care of the people around you, that's when the real war starts.
There's nobody that's like holding people accountable, unfortunately. The incentive structure is broken for sure.
That's true. I agree. I think incentivization has gone haywire. And, I think that, we have a lot to decide here in the next few days or 20 days or a couple of weeks. And I hope everybody does their research and makes an informed decision. I hope you guys check out
homework.
do your homework, Chris, and checks out the links to all the stuff that we had. Let us know in the chat what you liked about the show, what you didn't like about the show. Let us know if there's any topics you'd like to hear us discuss. Let us know too. I mean, we're running about 9 topics a show. So if you guys would like to hear us talk a little bit more about topics and less moving in topic to another, let us know too. That'd be a good one too.
Hey, before we go, Ricardo.
Yeah, man.
To answer your question earlier that about dealing with the 2 evils.
Yes.
Always be wary of people dealing in absolutes. If the candidate is dealing in absolutes, probably the bad way to go.
That's a really good piece of advice.
That's a good one. And I also have breaking news. The Yankees lost.
Oh, geez. Wait, is the series still tied? No, what is it?
No, the Yankees are winning 2-1. They could have
That's
gone 3-0, but a bullpen blew it.
Of course, they need more ad dollars, man. They need another game.
Go Ducks.
I agree.
Go Ducks. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week on the Almost Patriots podcast. I'm your host, Rico, with my guest, Elvis in Indianapolis, Mike in New York City. Be sure to follow us on whatever stream you're watching us. We go live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. You can watch us on X, and you can watch us on YouTube. The video recording will be up on YouTube, so you guys can go back and rewatch the show. If there's anything else, I don't think I have any more shout outs. I want to shout out to Brian for bringing me pizza. I want to shout out to Basic Pizza San Diego for making a great pizza. I want to shout out to Scorpion Percussion. We were talking about American companies, and I wanted to just interject and say that I was very lucky enough to run into somebody who feels that way. And I work at Scorpion Percussion too. And we're a company that makes American drumsticks from American hickory, and they're made in America. So if you guys like wood, I'm not a drummer, but whatever. Shout out to them, and I want to shout out to everybody that was watching for us. Thanks for joining us, and tune in next week, guys, for the Almost Patriot podcast. And sooner or later, we're going to start bringing in some guests, but keep it moving, guys.
All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.